Hey everybody, welcome to episode 93 of Powerbombshells. I am Sam, that is Mel. We are just two broads talking about the wrestling that we watch. And as you can probably tell by my lovely, beautiful voice, I've been under the weather since last Monday. So the day after my birthday, I've got sick and have been sick since it's mainly just a cough. It's kind of like moved into my chest. It's not anything, it's not COVID or anything like that, but it's not been fun. I've been coughing a lot, which I'm sure my sister appreciates. And I was like, well, I think yesterday was probably the best I felt since Monday, even though it wasn't like 100%. And so I was like, oh, I should be great for the show tomorrow. I'm probably going to be doing okay. And then this morning's been it's not been bad, but it's just like, I don't know what my throat's going to do and what my voice is going to do. So,
you guys might have to listen to me a little bit more than Sam, which it is what it is, people. Like she sacrifices her voice every week for your entertainment and fun. So if you have to listen to me a little bit, you'll be all right.
I have plenty of, but yeah, just that's what Mel and I were talking about before we went on the air. I was like, you may have to just. I was like, hopefully I don't have like a coughing fit or anything like that. I was like, if you see me like go off camera all of a sudden, then that means you've got to take over.
All right. So you've all been warned. So now you know. So how was your Thanksgiving?
It was
I mean,
right.
The whole way. So
I stayed home. My mom and my sister went to our cousin's house. I was really looking forward to that just because it's fun anyway. And then obviously it was the first Thanksgiving without my uncle. And so like I wanted to be there, but I didn't want to make anybody sick. And I don't know that it's super contagious. Like I haven't had a fever or anything, but we all know how colds are. So I was just like, and Sonny's on a new chemo. I didn't want to do anything to risk that. So I stayed home. Me and Miley hung out. We watched the dog show.
Oh,
yeah. And we watched The Nightmare Before Christmas. And then my mom brought me a plate. So I mean, it was really quiet. And then it's been mainly quiet this weekend. I've been just trying to rest as much as possible. So how was your Thanksgiving?
It was very low key. We just made all the normal stuff and ate it all and watched, I mean, let's see. Yeah, we just hung out because Bob's in retail. So
right.
He disappeared obviously early Friday morning, and I didn't see him again until late last night.
Oh goodness.
Yeah. So he got to sleep in a little-ish kind of this morning, but yeah, so Black Friday went out. Black Friday, Small Business Saturday, and now Cyber Monday. So
yeah.
Go capitalism.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm telling you, it's been a long time. He's been in retail for a long time.
Yeah.
So it's very so what I did was I watched your top 10, almost all of them. I didn't get to, or I think it was 10. You did a list anyway. You did a playlist back for the pandemic. You've mentioned it before for the Motor City Machine Guns, and I am up to like the 6th one.
Oh, nice.
Because I've been watching them and reading your little thing. Like I read the whole article, and then as I was watching the videos, I went ahead and started reading your little again, and I was like, oh, this is really cool.
Oh, awesome.
Dude, old school ROH, so much fun.
Yeah, it really is. Yes. Actually, now that you say that, and Brad probably knows the answer to this, I need to go look into the ROH library and see what kind of Motor City matches are on there, because like I told you, like the article I wrote that we talked about last week and that Mel is referencing is back when the US went on lockdown, there was no wrestling, and we were like, what do we tell people? Like, what can we do? And so we were like, oh, we'll tell people like what they should watch. And so I was like, I'll do best Motor City Machine Guns on YouTube, Motor City matches. And so I want to go back and see what's on our club, because I'm sure there's some really good stuff on there. And then also the one thing that was super disappointing was the best of 5 matches that they did with Beer Money is not on YouTube. There's like a little tiny clip that's like that kind of highlights the matches, but there's no, you can't watch them. And I don't remember, I feel like somebody told me, this is probably a question for Josiah, because I know he's subscribed to Impact Plus. I think the matches are on that.
Okay.
But that series is very crucial to Motor City, especially in TNA, because it's that was a really big series for them, and so and it was a lot
You
of.
have no idea how many notes I've already started.
I can only imagine.
Crazy. You would laugh at my journal. And shout out to John Muse for hooking me up with a bunch of information like wrestling data and cage match stuff like that. Like he linked me to an Excel spreadsheet that's just out there that has like venue information and gates and oh man, this is my kind of stuff. This is nerdy. I love it. It's so nerdy, but it's like wrestling related, so it's awesome. The only thing that so I had to go look for the first two because they were privated by the time that I got to them.
Okay.
So you if you ever do like a new updated version.
Yeah, I probably should.
Well, you're going to see them hopefully now. So I mean,
yeah, I'm hoping. Yeah, so yesterday I was helping decorate the Christmas tree. And I got a text message in our group chat, and I was like, oh, something from Deadlock. And so Matthew's just been sending whatever matches. Their DPW is getting ready to have their second anniversary show on the 10th. And so he's been sending like matches as he's seen them. And so I was like, oh, okay, cool. Deadlock is announcing something else. And then I saw the graphic and it just took my brain. Like I couldn't process what I was seeing. Then I had to like read the tweet and I was like, this is real, right? Like, and I was just like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And I was like, it's happening. Like, so it was Workhorsemen versus Motor City Machine Guns.
She was the gift, guys.
Yeah, I was the gift for sure. I was like, and so they're facing Workhorse. So Workhorsemen did retain against Grizzled Young Veterans at the last show. They did retain. And so they're putting their titles on the line against Motor City at the second anniversary show. And so I have been wanting, if you've watched this show, or follow me on Twitter, I've been wanting this match forever because
she literally retweeted a tweet that she wanted this match exactly.
Yeah, it was funny because, Anthony Henry had asked over the summer, he was like, if there's any matches you could see, what like us, who would it be? And I was like, Motor City. And I was like, and I jokingly said, somewhere that I can attend, maybe. And I think I said something like maybe DPW. And ask and you shall receive, because
there you go. I've
spoken into the universe and it's happening, and it's in Durham, which is like an hour and a half away. Unfortunately, I am having some car issues, but I think I've got a solution. I told my mom, I was joking with her yesterday. It's like, if I have to, I will rent a car and go up there.
Yeah. Originally.
I was like, it's a Sunday, so I'll have to rent it on Saturday and then like have it until Sunday night. But I was like, I will figure out a way to make this happen. And so unfortunately, front row seats are already sold out because they sell them to the Patreon. The DPW Patreon gets first dibs, obviously. And so front row is very well sold out, but there were some second row stuff yesterday. My sister was like, maybe you should wait till you get the car situation figured out, but I think I'm just going to buy the tickets and just let the universe do the rest.
I will get there.
I will. I was like,
Dave was telling the story this week about how he used to bike like 11 miles to go see wrestling shows, and we were all joking uphill in the snow, and
oh yeah,
because in our Discord, but that's perfect. So there you go. I mean, if Dave can pedal to a house show, because he's hardcore.
Yeah.
So if he can bike to a house show, you can certainly.
Yeah, I will find
one of those
way.
Scooters or one of the.
Yeah, there we go.
What's big around here is the golf cart.
We got them. I was like,
everybody loves the golf cart here.
Yeah, see, there we go. I can do that too. There is somebody actually that rents a golf cart. There's somebody not far from here that I've seen. They have a golf cart in there, like on the sidewalk, and it has a sign that says "Rent me" or something like that. Like, let me just borrow this to drive to Durham and back.
We have a little
and on top of that,
so they're really like everything's street legal here. Like, so there's a lot of little and our Parks and Rec's really good, and we have a whole bunch of community stuff that goes on. So there's it's making me want one, actually.
I'm
If
sure.
I ever had FU money, that's like one of the first things I would buy. But they're everywhere and they're so cute and they're tricked out and everybody drives around. And we have like, it's called Good Old Days because this is an old train depot town.
Oh, okay, right.
And there's like music, like there's the stuff has been preserved by the Historical Society, and it's really cute and fun. And so everybody kind of has them because they like dress them up for the parade or make them look like train things. I mean, it's a lot of fun, and I'm just like, ooh, if only.
Awesome. Right.
Powerball.
Yeah, right.
I should probably start playing if I want to
win. Yeah, and then like on top of this, like not only is Motor City there, Filthy is gonna be there. He was at the last show, and so they announced the day before. It's like it's Team Filthy versus, what was it, like LeBron Kozon? Like I can't remember the match. It was something really good. And then Brian Keith is on that show because he's the champion. Speedball is on the show. Nikki didn't get to see Speedball back
that's right.
So she'll get to see him now. So we're like, everything is just like, I was like, we have to go to the show. Like we have got to get there. I was like, literally, I was like, this is what I want for Christmas. I just want to figure out a way to get to DPW. I don't want
like perfect too, because see, it did work out like in the end. Now Nikki will get to go and enjoy it. You guys will be together. You get to take a fun road trip. I mean,
yes,
I'm sure you've been to Durham a billion times, but
so yeah, and it'll be nice because I was like, hopefully I'll be feeling better. Hopefully Nikki will not be sick. Hoping that she doesn't catch anything. But yeah, so I'm really looking forward.
You might be immune to each other by now.
Hopefully. So. Hopefully so.
That sounds kind of funny, but
I know what you mean. Before we go, I've got a couple of comments over here that I haven't gotten to get to. Nikki likes your hat.
Oh, thank you. I figured I couldn't find anything, so Merry Christmas.
It's very cute. I like it. It's not quite the turkey hat that Brad had guessed.
I really thought about making something like with turkey feathers, but I was so worn out after watching 1000 Motor City Machine Gun. No, that's a lie. It's not what really happened. I really kind of just chilled out. I did a ton of reading yesterday. Like I was reading Observers and I was reading like these, matches and stuff like that. Right. And I was watching the matches in between and I was trying to kind of get a read on things that are, I want to make a good case. I want it to be compelling. Like,
of course.
Go big or go home. Am I right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah, and just out of more than anything, I just want Motor City to get the flowers that they deserve.
They are so good.
They have been overlooked for so long, and I do think like over the last few years, like fans are starting to get more vocal about it, and other wrestlers are getting more vocal about how much Motor City has meant to the business and to them and like their careers and things like that, which is nice to see. And so it would be nice for them to get some mainstream love as well. And so I'm excited to go on this journey, no matter what happens, the end goal, whether they make it into the Hall of Fame or not, which they should. I just want people to pay. I want people to pay them attention. I want people to understand how important they are to American Tag Team Wrestling, and then, but not even just American Tag Team Wrestling, because they wrestled in Japan, and they opened the door for so many people like the Young Bucks to go wrestle in Japan. And
I didn't realize until I started doing the watching part and sort of listening about like what people think about them, is that they don't look because I don't think about it now because we have so many tag teams that are their size now. But the whole thing is like they were undersized and they were ahead of their time and they were all these, and I'm like, well, okay, but that makes them like, because they are equal parts strong style and high flying. Like those two can do. I was like sitting there like, wow, they are doing so much mat work here, like in-ring, joint manipulation. I was just like, I love this. Like they're not like a spot fest. They are, they're so smart. And in every match that you had put in there, what I think is really interesting about that, they're all challenging for, I'm sure it's set up that way anyway, but they're always challenging for belts. and they've held a butt ton of titles.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, individually and as a team. And I definitely am with you on them being a team and going in as a team, because I think it absolutely, from everything I've read about them, it sounds like that's the way to go anyway.
Yeah,
but I just think they're so great, and they get over everywhere. In Chicago, in Philly, in one of those places was like in Kansas.
Right.
People are just chanting Motor City. Like, it's great. I mean, it really is special. And I'm like, oh man, this is like, why? I actually had a moment of like, this is silly. Like, this is going to be a slam dunk.
Right. It should be. It should
That's
be.
okay.
Yeah.
I'm learning something. And if anyone's been watching this for long enough, knows I'm a big nerd that likes to learn things and read. So this is working perfectly. I'm reading Killing the Business right now, because I was like, oh yeah, I have the Bucks book, and I'm going to see if there's any.
I have borrowed that book and have just not gotten around. Poor Doug gave us that book to read like 2 years ago, and we haven't gotten around. Nikki and I talk about that all the time. So now I need to read that too, especially with all of this. We should have a book club.
I mean, it's a 9-hour and 12-minute read, so I should be able to get through that in a fairly like good time and intake it, because I do Audible just because of the way I process.
Oh, sure. Yeah, and that's completely understandable.
I was like, wait a minute, I have their book. I'm gonna see if they make reference to them, because that'll be another thing that just because they're on the ballot. They did over 50%, so they'll be on the ballot next year. And Brian Alvarez went on a freaking tangent about why aren't the Young Bucks first ballot Hall of Famers? And if everyone's out there saying they're the best tag team in the world, then they need to be in there. And it's like, well, if everyone's out there saying the Young Bucks are the best tag team in the world, even your 2015 match you had on there was when the Bucks were getting hot, but they were wrestling the Motor City Machine Gun.
Yep.
So, and people were chanting for the Motor City Machine Gun.
Yes, they were. And it's awesome. Because I can't remember now which. There's a tag team match that the Young Bucks did in AEW. I can't remember which pay-per-view it was off the top of my head, but it was basically a love letter to tag team wrestling, and they did several Motor City moves in that match. And I was like, you have to. You can't write a love letter to tag team wrestling in the last 25 years, 30 years without including Motor City. They are the backbone for a lot of what is popular today. And they, like you said, they infuse so many different styles, and they do a lot of mat work, and they do a lot of things that people weren't doing, which I guess is why, they're considered ahead of their time. But I think if you're considered ahead of your time, then that pretty much guarantees that you should be in the Hall of Fame, because you made those things possible for these other teams that popularized it. You gave them that foundation that they need. And like you and I have talked about, like, they wrestled in Japan, which opened the door.
I haven't even gotten to that. I've barely, with this list, it's like, it's really great, but this is like barely scratched the surface, because I need to get into their TNA stuff, and I need to get into their New Japan stuff. I should be able to watch some of those matches on my New Japan subscription, I suspect, because they were like, they were junior heavyweight champions.
Yes, they were. And we have somebody that AD who was watching and following along on Twitter, and that's what I thought. And then I was like, am I getting myself confused? It was the love letter to tag team wrestling was the Bucks versus FTR 1. So that is the match that, yes. Awesome. So thank you for that. And thank you for that in real time. I appreciate that.
Yeah, that's really cool. See, I love our people.
So yes, definitely. But yeah, so I look forward to not arguing this case, but helping
making it.
Yes, thank you. Making
building it, constructing it.
Yes.
So that it may be presented in a coherent way and these guys can get some rec. Whatever.
Yes.
If people are talking about Motor City, this like more people in the wrestling community are talking more about them and they're more excited about them by this time next year, I feel like I've done my job.
Right, exactly. Yeah, and I just saw
that just means people are more aware of a really, really good tag team that with tag team wrestling being so prominent now, it's important that the history of it, North America makes like
right. And there was a period of time, obviously, where WWE got like obviously there was that boom period where it's the Hardys and Edge and Christian and the and 3D and stuff like that. But then there was a long period of time where tag team wrestling didn't mean anything to WWE. They didn't care anymore after that. They moved on. And so tag team wrestling wasn't as focused on in the mainstream if you weren't watching things like ROH and TNA at the time, where a lot of these tag team matches were still happening and where these were going down. And there was such an emphasis on tag team wrestling. So I think that's another reason, besides they were wrestling in a smaller company, but also they were wrestling for a company. They weren't wrestling. The big company didn't put any effort. Like they had tag team matches, but it wasn't the same kind of presentation that we had seen before with those guys. And so I think that's another reason that, it kind of people weren't paying as close attention, is because it was a smaller, either people didn't have access to it, or it's because WWE was focusing on other stuff, and so people weren't paying attention to tag team wrestling outside of, and like that was happening in other countries or companies rather.
Yeah, they kept it relevant.
Right.
Them, the Briscoes, the people that and this is the other thing too, is like they're wrestling people that are also potential contenders for Hall of Fame status. They've wrestled freaking everyone. Austin Aries and Ryan Danielson. It's just, they wrestled everybody.
They basically have wrestled a who's who in wrestling. Like if there's anybody that's been in wrestling in the last 20 years, they have faced the Young Bucks.
I started listing like who they've wrestled just for like, it's just hilarious. But it's
you go back and watch these old things and you're like, oh yeah, that would have made sense that they would have crossed paths at this time and things like that.
Plus, I love watching. Like, I realized that I'm like, wow, I like OG ROH. It's kind of even TNA. It's kind of fun. It's got a really like that. It's got like a fun indie vibe that I like about it. Without it, it's not as, I think people shit on it a little, and they shouldn't, because it's fun.
No. There was and there's a lot more ROH that like I need to see, because like I said, I didn't have access to it a lot of the times. So I need to get into the ROH library more and see what's out there, especially because I was like, so now I'm curious to see what type of Motor City matches are on there, or if they're on there, because I know that not everything has been moved over to the library yet, and so there's things that are missing. But I'd be really interested to see what type of Motor City stuff is on there and like who they're facing, because like you said, they wrestled like Danielson and Aries and like all these huge, and then like of course there's like Kevin Steen and El Generico that they were wrestling.
Kevin Steen and El Generico, that match was so much fun.
It was. I love that.
I know who, like I know them. I know of them in like Chikara and whatever.
Yeah.
But I realized when I was watching, I'm like, how have I never watched an El Generico like Kevin Steen match ever?
That was me too, because I'd always seen clips and stuff, because I didn't have because I didn't tape trade. I didn't know that was a thing. Like, and so I didn't have access to a lot of stuff. So I had always seen clips. And so I think that was like, that match with Motor City was so much fun. It was, I was like, no wonder people loved Ring of Honor at the time.
I was enjoying
I was like, this stuff is right up my alley. Like if I had access to this stuff, I would have loved it.
That match that's going in like in my best of like sort of like greatest hits of like wrestling that I like. That's definitely on. I was like, how have I never watched these guys? This is amazing. It was so much fun. So
it was
thanks for your help that you.
Oh, you're welcome.
I made it relevant again, and it's great. And so,
yeah.
And if you guys have any Motor City matches that you think I should watch, then
please send them. Definitely
tweet them at us, and I tag them so that I can keep them in my. I've been making a list of the sources, because got to be pro about it.
Yes, definitely.
All
Daza says
right.
that ROH in the 2000s was my refuge from WWE when I needed good wrestling. Yeah, I wish I had
I
access to
believe
it
that.
a lot sooner because I think I would have been a lot happier with wrestling if I had had access to stuff like that, or had better access to it. So I can definitely see why that era of ROH holds such special memories for a lot of people. Which is really cool. Daza said if there are any on there, I heartily recommend the CZW versus ROH feud matches, especially the War Games finale. I will definitely. I've heard about some of that stuff, Daza. So I will look into that too and see if that's on there. I'm really curious to see what they make available. And then, and also Brad, real quick, I saw that Brad said his wife has had a lingering cough for like 3 weeks. I hope she feels better soon. And I hope I don't have a lingering cough. I hope I don't have a lingering cough for 2 more weeks because I don't
I don't want any of you to be sick. All of you need to immediately cease being ill.
Yes. Yes.
That's how it works.
Yeah, I don't want to. Exactly.
I was
like, my mom was like, when we were talking about Thanksgiving, she's like, do you think like maybe you could wear a mask? I was like, I sneeze too much. I was like, that would be a disaster.
Oh, it'd be all like so wet and gross and weird in there. You'd have to be changing it like every 20 minutes.
Yeah, I was like, that would be a disaster.
You're like, I don't want to like feel like I'm standing out in warm fog during Thanksgiving.
Right. Exactly. So I was like, none of that. Daza said, I have all my DVDs of an unbroken run of about 5 years of ROH, so you're both invited to come around. All right, let's get on a plane and go visit Daza and go watch.
I mean, if we can ever like
ROH.
We need to do a fundraiser to get us over to All In or something, and then we can visit Daza at the same time.
There we go. We'll go in early so we can watch ROH DVDs before.
I would want to go early anyway because my friend on the east coast of Ireland, he's like right there, and it's so super easy. So I was like, well, I would want to like spend days with you other than the wrestling day, like we did in Chicago, and it was like, oh, that's it's once you get there to Europe, it's easy to get around Europe. It's so freaking easy. And because we're such like drivers by like culture,
right?
It's super easy, like because most Europeans don't drive like we do. I mean, it's changing, and they are having to like upgrade the highway systems because more people are driving. But but it's different. So for us, we're like, yeah, 3 hours, like we don't care. 5 hours on the road, yeah, we're good. We'll be fine. Plus, they have like super efficient cars, and it was fun to have Bob driving on the wrong side of the road when we were in Ireland. That was. I'm sorry, it's not the wrong side of the road. It's the wrong side.
The opposite side of the road.
Us Americans, we're the only ones that drive on that side, actually.
Wow.
Us and the Canadians, of course, because
we just do things.
We do our own thing. It's how we are. As my Irish friend always says, he's like, I'd still rather come to America's party if they throw a party. So we still throw the best parties.
There we go. Well, at least we have that going for us.
We know how to party in America.
As Daza had said earlier when we first got in here that he's afraid he sold out and restarted his sub for the WWE network. I really needed to see the Joshi trio and War Games. Daza said Brad said we all make a deal with the devil once in a while, Daza. I hope it was worth. I didn't watch Survivor Series, but I saw so many tweets about the women's War Game match, and so many people were saying it's the best one since the first one. And somebody asked me, she was like, I know you don't watch WWE, but are you gonna go back and watch that? And I was like, I might have to find the time to, because it opened the show and I heard so many good things about it, and I like all of the women who are involved, which is another cool thing to see, or makes it even more sorry, Nikki is Miley. You probably, I don't know if she picked up barking on the background, but Nikki.
No barking at all.
Okay, because she was loud. She was loud for me, so I didn't know if it picked up. So
no, it absolutely was. I didn't even hear it. If anyone else heard it, then
But yes, so but yeah, I've heard really good things about that match, and I've heard so Jaza said the women's War Game match was awesome. Also,
Right.
Ripley versus Zoe Stark was pretty good too. Yeah, I heard a couple things about that too.
I need to call my cable company and threaten to quit them so that they'll give me a deal anyway, so I can get I should just I'm entitled to Peacock, but it just won't hook up, and I've not done the thing where you
right.
So I'll go back. Do we need to address the muffin-sized elephant in the room, or?
Yeah. I mean, I was going to talk about it because, I mean, I think we have.
Because we're like the first show, basically.
Well, the Wrap did. So last night, the Wrap.
Oh, yeah. Well, of course. That's a great
hung out
point.
in the Wrap's chat and talked. It's funny because one of the questions I asked them pretty much got answered from there's a Slack that came out before I went to bed last night that answered what happened. I mean, answered my question. So obviously, CM Punk returned last night at the very end of the show. Like, it was funny because I wasn't watching the pay-per-view. I was watching, I had obviously been watching AEW.
Twitter.
And so, like, I was in Slack. And, well, I had seen both in Slack and on Twitter that they had been teasing all night that Randy Orton wasn't there. But then somebody screenshot his wife was on Instagram and on her Insta story, and she had moved down to the front row for the match. So I was like, well, clearly, I mean, I assumed he was there the whole time, and they were just kind of trying to rile up the crowd. And I was like, they know what they're doing. So I was like, I'm sure. I was like, good for Randy. He's been gone for a really long time because he had surgery. And so I was like, cool. And then, like, I was in Slack and we were talking and just talking about random stuff. And they were like, and then somebody said, LOL. And I was like, what the hell are they talking about? And then somebody else chimed in and was like, wait, is Punk really there? And I was like, wait, I'm not on Twitter. Like, I was like, what are we talking about? And they were like, and then so they said that he showed up like at the very end when Team Cody was celebrating. Sorry if that's a spoiler alert. You didn't know that Team Cody won. And that, like, so they did like the kind of Johnny Gargano, Tommaso Ciampa thing where they put up the little graphic to make you think it was going off air, which I also heard was a reference also to, they did that with Bret Hart, I think at WrestleMania 10.
Okay.
Somebody was saying something similar along those lines. And so CM Punk's music hits, he comes out, and that was it. And so I was like, oh, okay. So, and so obviously surprised by that. Not completely surprised, just as far as, I mean, the rumors had died down that he wasn't going to be signing, and if he was signing, it would not be anytime soon. That's kind of like where it was at. And so I was like, I guess I shouldn't have been surprised because it was Chicago, but everything that I had heard was that they had kind of moved away from it, and it wasn't like, if they were like, talks had gone nowhere. And so I was like, okay, well, and so I didn't really think to even tune in to possibly see anything. And then I was like, oh, okay. And then
there was like one source that is usually right. And I was like, And so I was half paying attention to it. And it was like, like, that's very interesting. And it's just like, you know, when someone's just right a lot?
Yeah.
You just start to be like, I wonder if it had been a long time and it had gone away, and Dave had said that they weren't expressing interest anymore. And so it's like, all right, well, I mean, like, just about everybody is saying no, but
right.
Also like him and like even like Andrew Zarian and a couple of people, they were like, never, but you, and it's like wrestling, so never say never. And It almost felt like, I don't think they're convinced either. Like, I don't know. It's like they think so, but I don't know. So
my question last night when I was in the Wrap was, since they were supposedly out on the CM Punk stuff, or at least for the time being, which ended up being confirmed again last night, I was like, did they do this because Will Ospreay signed with AEW? And then we got that answer, and it sounds like yes. Because
okay, cool.
The select that came out last night was that Triple H and CM Punk talked on Sunday, which is the day after Will Ospreay was announced as signing a contract. They talked for about an hour, cleared the air about some things, and then the deal came together very quickly. As of yesterday morning, CM Punk did not even have a contract. So this is how quickly it came together, which leads me to believe Will Ospreay going to AEW made Triple H call CM Punk. And that's sound from what Select is reporting. That is the case. There's also, I have read the hang on, I have it bookmarked. There was a thread about what Dave, because Dave talked about it too last night.
Yeah, and I started the Observer Radio this morning. Didn't get
he, I believe he confirmed the same thing, was that it basically, he was kind of along the same idea, is Ospreay signing with AEW spurred Triple H and Nick Khan to, because it sounds like it is, so this here,
I got that it was a Nick Khan decision. That I did get from the
yes, that it was
part.
a Nick Khan decision, but Triple H and CM Punk were the ones who were on the phone. And somebody asked me last night, they were like, do you think there was also an apology? He was like, I assume there would be an apology made for him being fired on his wedding day. And he was like, do you think the same apology was also made to AJ Lee? Because it was also her wedding day.
Her wedding, yeah.
So, and I was like, I would hope so. I was like, I don't know if it was a direct apology to her or a, hey, can you tell your wife we're sorry about that? Like that type of thing. Or, how did that, because, it was, and AJ, I can't remember the time frame, but AJ was still with the company a bit longer after that happened, because so I was like, I assume she never got an official apology at the time. So I was like, is that something? And so my friend asked that last night, and I was like, that's a good question. Like, did they put her on speakerphone and be like, hey, sorry about that?
Definitely, you made me realize I need to go listen to the rap or watch the rap from last night. Rewatch I've got our YouTube up here on the banners here, and it's Fight Game Media. You can just @ Fight Game Media on YouTube now, so it's super cool. Like you can get there really quick. But I would definitely recommend watching that, because I'm gonna go watch or listen on the Patreon. But I just realized I definitely want to hear what they have to say.
I tuned in. I saw that. I forgot they were going live, and I saw Keela's tweet, and I was like, oh, I'm hopping on this. And I want to listen. And so I was in the comments, like talking to them on and off. And so that's, and I thought about it. And I was like, I was like, the timing is very odd. Because I did, the WWE scrum was on YouTube. And so I tuned in for just a couple of minutes and caught Triple H.
The softball kayfabe scrum.
Yes. They apparently did not have pickles there. So
John Alba was cracking me up because he's on there tweeting about, I don't know why, I must have been like, in and out of it, because I was watching AEW last night, so I mean, I don't know like timelines, but he was like, how come no one's asking good questions and stuff like that? I'm like, come on, bro, you know better than anybody.
Well, I think he's making fun of, because that's the comment.
I hope so. I mean,
John was clearly, I think he was playing into that, because that whole thing. No, I think John was. So I tuned in, and he was just saying, so I had missed like the timeline stuff, but he just said, I'm a different, because obviously they clearly, CM Punk and Triple H had their issues years ago, and he was like, I'm a different person. He's a different person. WWE's not even the same anymore, because basically I think he was trying to get out, Vince isn't here anymore. Sure. And so that's kind of like but from what I'm hearing, Nick Khan was heavily involved in this, and then Triple H got brought in, I guess, so they could hash out their stuff. There was apparently a comment that I missed this, where Triple H said that the TKO executives found out while watching the pay-per-view. However, it does say Dave asked around and was told the same thing, and he said it wouldn't be surprised if some people in TKO knew, but he was also told the creative side is in WWE's hand, and they don't focus on that, and they don't choose who gets hired and things like that. So there is, I guess, plausibility that TKO was not aware until
it sounded from Dave what he was saying, and that it, like you just quoted it there. That's the part I caught, was that Ari Emanuel doesn't get hands-on. Apparently in the UFC, he doesn't bother with, like, if Dana, he made the comparison of like, it was like, he's like, this is an over-the-top comparison, but like if Dana and Connor got in a beef, but then he wanted to book him back later.
Yeah.
that Ari would never like care about that. He wouldn't even
he
step
just
in.
talks
And I
about
was
as
like,
long as it's bringing in
okay. I
money.
mean, and
Yeah.
he has made it clear. I mean, they've had Paul Levesque and Vince McMahon haven't been on the last shareholder calls.
Right.
At all.
Yeah.
So
Which
I
is
mean,
really interesting,
it's
considering
really
it's completely different than the way business has been run in WWE for so long that now, like, they're not in the loop with some of that stuff, which is so interesting.
It's weird.
It's
a
very
whole
weird.
new
And then
world.
it appears that Vince really is not involved in creative anymore. And I think, and you can kind of see, like, again, I don't watch WWE, but just from reading my timeline, like, the women are getting more attention. You see Cedric Alexander has been on TV more often. Like, these people that were kind of getting pushed to the side under when Vince came back are now getting back on TV. Clearly, I don't think that CM Punk would have come back if Vince was involved in any way in creative. I don't think Vince would have wanted Triple H back, and I mean CM Punk back, and I don't think CM Punk would have come back. But then what another interesting thing I heard last night was Stephanie McMahon was there last night, and that's the first time she's been seen. Because Stephanie Chase, who I follow, she's a reporter from London. She was at AEW show on Wednesday, and she was there last night. And she said Stephanie walked past them. And then I saw something else last night saying that Stephanie was backstage. And Stephanie and Stephanie and CM Punk apparently always had a good relationship. They always got along. And so I don't know if she had anything to do with him coming back, as like if she brokered anything or smoothed anything over with Triple H, or if it was just coincidence that she just happened to be there last night because it was such a big pay-per-view and Vince is not around anymore. So she's like, I'm going to come on out to the pay-per-view.
I'm allowed now. Oh, well, not allowed, but I can come out here and feel comfortable and not like weird.
Not like I'm going to get blamed for everything.
Not all awkward. Yeah. Well, I mean, we all know everything was her fault, right?
Yeah.
It was all.
It's the woman's fault always.
All blame the girl. Gotta blame the girl. It's the easiest thing to do anyway. I mean,
yeah.
Women just can't do business, right? So
no, of course not. Yes,
totally.
Exactly.
Anyway, no, I mean it's interesting to me, and it's fine. And as I said to some people, because I got some engagement I was unexpecting when I tweeted about it.
Twitter likes to do that. The tweets that you think nobody pays attention to. I'm like, why did you find this one?
But it was kind of cool because in the end, like I said, there's a few things. One point is CM Punk wouldn't even be relevant if it wasn't for AEW. So.
Well, and I don't think WWE would have even signed CM Punk if AEW didn't exist, because they don't need him. They brought him back because
of Will Ospreay.
And because of Will Ospreay.
And because they can. But even more than that is WWE has significantly word easy for you to say, has significantly improved since AEW started. Yes. Because they've had to up their game. It's like rising tide raises all ships. I'm like, he's their problem now. I don't watch the product. I don't care. That's great. Yeah. I hope it helps wrestling.
Right. And
that's all I care about.
That's my thing too. And I know clearly there's obviously, and I even said this in my tweet last night, because, I tweeted, for all of the drama, I do think wrestling is better with him in it. Yeah. However, it is extremely hypocritical of him to go back to WWE after everything he said.
Of course.
But on the other hand, only two companies can afford CM Punk. He completely burned bridges with the other company who can pay him. And so I'm not surprised that he went back. I do wonder if they promised him a Hall of Fame induction if he came back. Like, we'll give you this and this. Maybe, and because some people were wondering if it was like a Mania only match. It sounds like from what Dave is saying, it's a multi-year deal. But is this a multi-year deal as in he's like Roman Reigns where he wrestles 6 times a year? Or is this, he's going to be on like Cody's schedule? Like, is he going to be on TV all the time? Or is this like in the beginning, they're going to put him on, because clearly he's going to be on Raw tomorrow night. I think you have to open with him, because if you don't, fans are just going to chant the entire time.
Oh my God, that would be a nightmare.
like you have to. I think you have to open with CM Punk, or you open with Triple H, and then Punk comes out, or something, or you open with Team Cody or Cody Rhodes, and then CM Punk comes out, and then maybe he's on SmackDown, or maybe he's on a couple of other things, and then is he off for a while, like saving himself until Rumble season, or is this somebody that's going to be on TV every single week? Like that'll be, I don't know, like I don't know what that, obviously what the details are still coming out, so we don't really know what the plan is. Is he, because a friend of mine who sort of, she watches WWE, she's familiar with AEW, but she doesn't even really watch WWE that much. But she sent me a picture and she was like, wait, CM Punk came back? Didn't he just, because she knew that I wrote about him getting fired. So like I was explaining some stuff and she asked me, she said, well, is he a good guy or a bad guy? And I was like, we don't know yet. He just showed up last night as it was going off air. And I was like, we don't, and I was like, he's one of those people. To some people, he will be a baby face no matter how they book him. And to some people, he will be a heel no matter how they book him. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how they go, however they handle it. And I was like, and of course, we're going into Rumble season. There's clearly going to be a Mania match. Like, I don't think he would have.
Yeah.
And some people had wondered, was it just a Mania match only? Because he had said reportedly when he was, I believe it's when he was suspended, he had said that he wanted to do one more Mania match. And some people wondered if it would be with Kevin Owens, because he saw what Kevin Owens did for Stone Cold. And Kevin Owens is a company. I want to say he's a company guy, but also Kevin Owens does not strike me as somebody who is a kiss ass, but he also is somebody who knows what's good for business and will do what's good for business, but I don't think I don't think that he's a corporate shill like Seth Rollins is. So I feel like, but now, I mean, that's completely wide open. And then we were like, in the wrap we were talking about last night, like, I was like, what if CM Punk finishes the story before Cody does? Like, what if he's the one to dethrone Roman Reigns? Like,
dear.
Like, what if that's, who knows? They may not, I don't, you just obviously, because there's all these questions now. So it's like, what if he's the one who finishes the story? Or, is he going to be completely separate from, like, have nothing to do with Roman Reigns whatsoever?
And it's just going to be my mind. I didn't even think of that part. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh dear. It does make for it does make you kind of like, it's like, oh no, do I need to get my popcorn?
Right. So yeah, it'll be, and I just, for wrestling in general, like I hope CM Punk gets out of his own way. That's the biggest thing, because we've talked about this many times. He is the reason that he is no longer with AEW. It's, he did, and sure, there may have been some things that played into it that, were made him feel the way that he felt, and maybe he has some valid feelings. He clearly handled a lot of things very incorrectly. Whether he was justified in feeling the way he felt, he should not have acted the way that he did. We've talked about that many times. So I don't know. I just hope he can get out of his own way. Pretty much.
Evidence suggests that that's not the case, but we'll see how things play out.
Right. And so, I mean, that's the only, I was like, that's really the only thing I can say is I hope he gets out of his own way. I do think WWE is structured differently as far as, like, WWE.
Maybe that's what he needs in his life right now. Maybe
Triple H said, if I'll pay for your therapy if you come back, but you have to go to therapy. And
there you go.
I don't know, but we talked about, and we've talked about how all of that went down. I don't know. We've talked actually before, like with locker room stuff, and how AEW have had issues, obviously, in the women's locker room and things like that. That's not to say that WWE doesn't have these problems. It's just we don't hear about it because they run a very tight ship over there, and they handle things completely differently, for worse or better. And
their CEO isn't on social media too much.
Right. that too. Yes, that is true.
I mean, you're not a fan anymore. You're a boss.
Yeah, so people were talking about last night, they were like, so is Tony gonna start sending out tweets now? And I was like, I hope he just is quiet. I'm sure I think I feel like he was probably hurt last night, because the main reason I say that is because when CM Punk first left and it was brought up in the press conference, what if he goes back to WWE? The look on Tony's face was very sad, and it was very painful to even for him to think of that. I mean, it's been a few months, so maybe now he's like, I don't give a shit.
I don't know. I
feel they were
especially
friends. They had gotten really close before all of this shit happened, and in the process of Tony getting to even get CM Punk to come to AEW in the first place, they became really close. So I feel like I think he probably got his feelings hurt last night.
Well,
Or
and he's been through a lot with his mom's health and things like that. I mean, people, like, he's still a human, like, he has human, like, problems too. And I mean, I have empathy for Tony. I like, it's just, I don't know, like, I hope that he can just, like, I hope this makes him stronger.
Yeah. I do think that Tony is gonna have to really get away from the WWE type of booking now.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think it's gonna be immediate, because we saw obviously the Devil storyline is still playing out.
Yeah.
We haven't completely moved away from, like, so I think stories have to finish up, but I hope within going into year 5 that Tony goes back to some of the year 1, year 2 stuff that set them apart, and that they needed to do that anyway, regardless of where CM Punk was at.
Yes.
AEW they need to focus on them and what makes them different and what was successful for them. And so I hope that CM Punk going there kind of just reminds them once again, like, this is what we need to be focusing on in year 5. We need to kind of get back on track. And this is what, and if they're, because one of the things that stood out last night was Triple H saying, we listen to the fans. And that seems to be part of why they brought Punk back. AEW has been the company who's not always, has mostly listened to the fans and given them what they want. But if we go to what the fans have been saying online for a while, like, they've wanted to get away from the WWE type of stuff and the sports entertainment type of stuff, and they want the wrestling side of things. They want better, the great matches and things like that. And so I hope that kind of pushes them back into, like, we're not sports entertainment. We need to focus on, like,
we're a professional wrestling company, not a sports entertainment company.
Right, exactly.
Which was what set them apart in the first place and gave us, like, made us give them and continue to give them our equity. Like, we still, I mean, I was watching AEW last night. I wasn't watching it live. I was watching it live. Like,
I was watching AEW live too.
When that was happening, it was happening on my Twitter, not on my TV, because I was watching the product that I prefer.
Right. Same.
I needed to stay different.
Yeah.
For me to stay interested.
We've made this comment a couple times over the last couple weeks. If I wanted to watch WWE, I would.
And I did. I gave it its last chance last year.
Yeah, and I gave it the Cody stuff really turned me off. That type of stuff really turned me off. And I mean, I generally watch the Rumble anyway, and I generally watch Mania anyway. I was like, I'm sure I'll tune in just to kind of see. I'm interested to see what CM Punk says as far as I think he still has an NDA. I think it expands, like, even though he's no longer with AEW, like, I think it's still in place. So I don't know what he's allowed to say about Tony, or like, I mean, I'm sure he can obviously make implications, because I mean, we saw the Elite do it, and the Elite is still making references.
Yeah, they need to drop that shit.
They're still doing the child. This is not the first time we've been called children shit that they were doing 2 weeks ago.
Need to let that go. Too.
Yeah,
I mean, that's the part where I feel like Tony needs to step in and be like, don't do that anymore. That's where the boss is supposed to be like, that's enough of that. Focus on what we're doing. Like,
right, exactly. And so, I forgot where I was going with that. I guess I didn't mean to derail. I started reading comments and kind of forgot where I was going with that. But yeah, it'll be. So I'm sure I'll turn. So I'm curious just to see that part. I may not even watch that. I'm sure the clip will be up online. So I may watch it there. And then I was like, I would probably watch the Rumble anyway, because I generally like watching the Rumble because I like to see who's coming back to see. And there's always, and of course, I love the Kofi Kingston spots. Like, those are always cool.
I mean, if I get it for free, I'll watch the
But
Rumble on Mania. But if
it's not something I will go even as a CM Punk fan, because I mean, I like Cody Rhodes, but I don't go out of my way to watch WWE to watch Cody. I love, like, one of the things I was talking to somebody about that yesterday. Like, one of the things I miss the most about watching is, like, I miss Kevin Owens. Like, I love him.
Yeah.
And talking about how great he was, and I was like, he is one of the things that I miss watching, but I'm not going out of it. But I have heard, the one thing I would say is I've heard a lot of really positive things about WWE in the last few weeks, which is good, because I want people to have good wrestling to watch. You and I talk about this all the time. The more successful that is, the more jobs people have. And, we want AEW to be successful. We want WWE to be successful. We want ROH to be successful, and Impact, and MLW and NWA, and like we want all,
and everybody else too. I mean, it's
the more wrestling there is, the better, and the more jobs that people have, the better. Like, so I hope WWE is doing well. They should be doing well, but and then WWE, if they are improving, then that should make AEW want to step up their game too. And if WWE is promoting their women better. I saw somebody say the other day that there were 27 women featured on Raw last week, like between matches and backstage segments and all this type of stuff. And I was like, that's insane. And no, I don't expect
that's a lot. It feels so sparse. Like last night we had some good matches, but they only had two?
There were 2 women's matches across 3 hours of AEW programming, and Rampage got 9.5 minutes, I think it was, and Collision's match was just over 5.
The Statlander match?
Yeah, it was just over 5. Statlander was just over 5. And then no, the Statlander match was 9.
No, I'm sorry, the Julia Hart match.
Well, her Julia Hart match was just over 5 minutes.
So the championship match was only 5 minutes?
It was 5 minutes and 7 seconds, because she wrestled Lady Frost, and I guess they were
I guess they
beat Lady Frost. Well, Lady Frost has got to deal with ROH for one thing. And then on top of that, she's a really good wrestler. Sure, your champion should. I guess that's the argument. So the champion should beat someone like Lady Frost in 5 minutes or less. But Lady Frost is no slouch. It's like Lady Frost.
No, that's right. Because I saw her, I was like, oh shoot, I haven't seen her since Impact.
Yeah, she's been on ROH though. She's been on ROH fairly regularly.
I know I've seen her on AEW television before. It's not like, because I know that
she's not on AEW television a lot. She's on ROH more often. She has some kind of a deal with them.
Interesting.
So they got 5 whole minutes, and then Chris Statlander wasn't even a title match, because clearly she doesn't have one. And they got 9.5 minutes, plus they got the stuff with Mercedes Martinez afterwards. It seems like they're going back to that random. I'm really glad they were going back to that story, because a couple of months ago they were doing stuff. It was Willow, Chris, Mercedes, and Diamante, and then they just dropped it and redirected Chris somewhere else, and Mercedes and Diamante were more in Ring of Honor doing their thing. And so now it kind of seems like they're picking that up again, which is nice.
Wait, didn't Diamante wrestle last night?
She did. She wrestled. She did. And then, but Mercedes Martinez was out there messing with Chris, and then they had a stare.
That's right. She wrestled Chris Statlander, and that's why I'm losing my
right. And then then Willow came out there,
right, and there was.
It seems like they're picking that story back up again.
And Willow got like the world's most enormous pop, and it just makes me cuckoo. Like, guys, come on.
Press says, I didn't love the TBS title last night. I thought Statlander versus Diamante was really, really good, and they set up the storylines post match. I really liked it. The one thing I like about the TBS title, I do like that they're bringing in the house rules. I think that's really interesting. I want to see, but they did the house rules for them when they had trios titles like 4 times, and then they stopped. So I don't know if this will be a long-term thing that they do with the TBS title. or if it'll just they're kind of seeing how to play out. Because so last night's rule was Lady Frost chose no countouts.
Yeah.
And then of course it was used against her, which of course, but yeah. So that was really interesting. Let me go over to the comments before we switch subjects.
Yes.
So yes, hi Colin. I did see you a little bit ago, but we were
Thanks for being here.
Yes, thank you for coming. I
Thank
appreciate
you
it.
all for being here and being
Yes.
patient with us.
Daza, I mean, Brad's already over Punk and he's muted him and he's still seeing posts and WWE fans who bash him in AEW wetting their pants. Yes. And also people already buying into works very quickly.
Oh, that Seth Rollins thing was the biggest angle in the world.
Yeah, I'm like,
crazy.
Michael Cole was holding him back. You think if he was mad
it
enough
was
that
Kate who tweeted, if Michael Cole and Corey Graves are holding you back, it's not a shoot. Like,
yeah, right.
Like, something to that. I was just like,
yeah,
it was so like she like
clearly
it was just so funny. I'm like, come on, like
yes.
guys.
Like, of course it's gonna build. I would not be surprised if that's gonna be, if it's not his first feud, it'll be a Mania feud or something like that. Like it'll be like they were clearly, and from what they're being told, that everybody in the War Games was told before the match that CM Punk was coming to close the show, so they all knew. And then the stuff with Drew McIntyre supposedly leaving the building or whatever, there's video of him leaving the ring before CM Punk's music even hits. So, and he was like holding his eye, and somebody else said they thought it was off of something that happened in the match with somebody else, and like they thought he was selling that and that it had nothing to do with the Punk stuff. But of course, the internet loves to automatically assume
wildly speculate into crazy.
Yeah, because the internet is gonna internet
into a shoot all the time.
yeah, that one. Yes. So Daza said he's been trying to think of someone who parted on bad terms with WWE and never came back, and he can't think of one other than Jeff Jarrett. And Brad said that he would say Macho Man was one of the other, because I mean Bret Hart came back and didn't think that he would come back, and he did. And somebody tweeted last night, and it made me laugh out loud when I saw it, was that CM Punk was taking the Bret fandom too seriously because he returned to WWE like Bret did after they screwed Bret and he came back. And so they were like, and it's interesting because last night during Collision, Malachi was talking to FTR, and I missed part of it because I was in the kitchen. And so I heard part of it. Malachi said CM Punk isn't here anymore. Like, I think he was naming allies of theirs.
He did. That's right. He did say his name.
And this was an hour
before. Yep, you're right.
Like an hour before CM Punk came back. And so we were just joking about it. And Nikki was like, well, I wonder if Malachi knew. But then we were talking about CM Punk. There was something that CM Punk had told a few people that he had a conversation with Triple H, or I guess yesterday had said something to them. And I was like, well, if you told Brody King, because him and Brody are really close, Brody could have told Malachi, and then maybe Malachi made the comments last night. I was like, or he could have just been saying it. Maybe it was just
or maybe it's just wrestling and he just said it because he's gone and they can finally say it. And he was making the point that all your boys are gone, including CM Punk. And
and so
I'm gonna kick your ass.
It could have just been perfect timing and Malachi had no clue. Or it could also be that Brody is in his faction and Brody and CM Punk are very good friends. And so obviously FTR is good friends, so maybe FTR let it slip.
They might have known too, yeah. Oh, so let it slip. They love talking. So if FTR knew, everybody knew. So like that's how wrestlers are. They just like
what is it? It was telephone. Somebody said the other day, it's like
telephone, telegram, telewrestler.
Yeah, right. Yes.
It's the truest one ever. I love it.
Yeah.
It's crazy. I wouldn't have like believed it if I hadn't experienced it a few times now, where it's like now that you're in this like weird world of content creation, you end up like it's like Dave always says never say never, and I think that's probably the best. Like
I mean, it's just the same thing as like no wrestler ever stays retired. Like any wrestler who says that they're retired, like until they've like gone until they're no longer on this earth.
Yeah.
It's pretty much there's always the possibility, even though they're about as retired as you can be. So yes. So there's been some other fun comments over here.
Cool.
The Colin made the point that Triple H won't be dumb enough to let Punk own his own roster or have his own roster, which is true.
True story.
Yes. He said, Daza said, people were saying, oh, it's not a work because Seth SmackDown wasn't on camera, so why would he be working? Well, there are 100 phones at ringside to film it and post it. And that's exactly what happened,
I watched it on Twitter before I got on here.
If anything, Seth is, I've never been a Seth Rollins fan, but if anything, Seth knows how to work people, and he knows, they all know their jobs, so they know they're not stupid. They know what they're doing. And he knew what he was doing. And again, if Michael Cole is the person holding you back when you're really mad, I think you can get past.
Sorry, I have a weird water bottle this week.
That's fine.
It's my other one.
Oh, I didn't even catch that. Brad said that Malachi also called him Cesaro instead of Claudio. I was in the kitchen warming up dinner.
I missed that one.
I could hear somebody talking, and I was like, that's not, and FTR had been in the ring, and I was like, that's not FTR. Who's talking? And I saw Malachi, and then that's when I heard the CM Punk reference, so I totally missed the Cesaro thing. But you know what? I still call him Cesaro every once in a while. I slip up and call him the wrong name.
Don't do that one too much. I get Edge is still.
I try really hard to call him Adam. Sometimes I still slip up, but yeah, every once in a while I will say Cesaro instead of Claudio, and I'm like, wait a minute, not that.
And I flip Bryan Danielson occasionally, but it's only it's my brain. It's
Yeah. What was it?
I almost said Murder City Machine Guns there for a second at one point. So I was like,
close enough. Maybe if they team with Lance Archer,
that's how they started. I mean, that was their first name. So
yes,
changed it to Murder City.
It was. Yes. This is
I'm learning.
You're learning.
Yeah, I'm getting smarter.
This is a question that we had last week. Going back to some of the women's stuff. We asked this question actually off air. Right after we finished the
we made sure and put it in the notes
right after we finished the pre-show last week. We were like, it just dawned on me. I was like, well, what do they do with Shida if she loses? And now you can kind of say the same thing with Chris, but it seems like we've got an answer with Chris. They're going back to the Willow Diamante Mercedes Martinez storyline that they were doing, and it makes sense because they're going into Long Island. Willow and Chris are both from Long Island, so it seems like some sort of something is happening. I don't want to jump to conclusions, and it may have just been a coincidence. However, during the women's match, I believe it was the first match on Rampage, it got brought up that there was a women's tournament when they were in Daly's place. I thought that was kind of an interesting little tidbit that they added in, because Tony Schiavone was like, oh, well, because he was saying that we saw her. He was like, oh, we saw her. There was a women's tournament when we were in Daly's place. And clearly Kevin Kelly wasn't there, and neither was Nigel. So it may have just been in passing, but it was kind of interesting that was brought up. Then they kind of do this thing where they're bringing back Willow and Chris together, and Diamante and Mercedes Martinez. I don't know if anything is coming of that, but I just thought it was interesting to note that perhaps there is something going on there. I don't want to, clearly with the women's division, I try not to jump to conclusions about anything, but I just thought that was an interesting little remark that was made. And then we saw the post stuff happen, and I was like, I'm gonna file that away for future reference. Yeah, Brad says, the women's tag tournament, that Diamante was one half of the winning team. Yes. That was I thought that was because he was putting over Diamante, which he should be, because I think Diamante is somebody who's overlooked a lot, and she came from obviously she came from Impact. She did some stuff there. We've talked about before about how they don't talk about how Kiera Hogan, she had been a champion in Impact, and they never really talk about that much. And so I thought that was kind of interesting. I was like, I don't know if they're planting little seeds or if this is just me focusing on, I'm like, oh, they don't really talk about that. So it's very interesting. I don't know if anything will come of it, but we will circle back to this conversation. Should that come back? Should anything come of that? Maybe it's just a tag match. Maybe it's just going to be a tag match because it's going to be on Long Island, and that's where Chris and Willow are from. And maybe they're giving us maybe it'll be. Hopefully, it's not going to be on 0 Hour. Hopefully, it'll be a main card match. Yeah. But you know how that goes.
Yeah.
Brad says Lance Archer, Alex Zane, and Motor City sounds like a really dope faction. I would be all for that faction because I absolutely love Lance Archer and Alex Zane together. I've only seen a little bit of it, but it's so great. And good for Alex Zane. He got a deal with Taco Bell in Japan. He's got his own meal for sale.
That is so cool.
Like,
that's really fun.
Yeah, I was like, good. I love Japan Alex Zane.
So much.
Way to
I want to go there so bad.
Yeah. I was like, I need
to go to Totocon. I need to go to Taco Bell and have the Lance Archer meal. I need to go to Outback
Alex Zane meal. Yes.
Because Fumi says it's the best.
Yes.
There's so many things.
Now you have something else to put on your checklist, your bucket list.
The bucket list.
But yeah. So, so with Shida, I don't know. I do think putting the title on Tony was the right call, especially if we're doing the, obviously very all about Io story that we talked about last week. I just don't know what you do with Shida.
I mean, do you let her go back? Is she going to go back to Japan, do you think?
I don't know. Oh, she spent so much of her time in Japan anyway. So I don't know if she had stuff pre-planned or if she's just like, well, they won't commit to me 100%, so I'm not going to commit to them 100%, or maybe it's just, I mean, she's done this stuff with Japan her entire deal, so I think it's always been like she's doing both, and that's kind of been like they let her have some leeway with that, and let her do her, I mean, because Riho's the same way, like Riho does a lot of stuff in Japan as well. Yuka Sakazaki had been doing the same thing. It sounds like Yuka will probably be here more often in December and January.
I wonder if she does like GCW or things like that. You know what I mean? I wonder if she does some dates.
Does any like indie stuff? That would be interesting
because she could make a lot of money doing meet and greets.
I mean, like Emmy does DPW, like she's the champion.
Yeah, and I think Yuka has done GCW before too. I think she came here to one of them came here.
Okay.
I just didn't get to it because we were
right. And Emmy was doing she was supposed to be doing a seminar like 2 weeks ago, and then I think something happened. Her flight got canceled, or she had something happen and she couldn't make it, and she was really upset about that and is trying to hold. So like she does that type of stuff. So perhaps Shida. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what Shida does. I'd like to see them give her, like we've talked about it a lot. They need to have title storylines with the women. They need to give them something to do that doesn't revolve around a title, which is what it seems they're doing with Chris now. So I would like to see the same for Shida. Like, let her have a story, because Shida is obviously an amazing wrestler and fans love her. Like, so find a way to keep her on TV. They can't.
Nothing else.
How long have they kept Britt Baker on TV? Well, I know she's been missing, and I think that's due to the double storyline, but how long did they kept Britt on TV when she didn't have the title? They kept her doing stuff kind of title adjacent, but she was always doing stuff. Soraya's on TV, some with Ruby now. Like they've got, like, I don't want Shida to be a valet by any means or anything like that. But if you come up with stories that don't have anything to do with the title, then you can get these women on TV, and Shida is a fan favorite and she needs to be on TV. Colin says poor Shida being a transitional champ once is horrible. Doing it to her twice is disgraceful. Treat her better than that. I would agree with you, Colin.
Yeah.
Daza said they were building something with her and Britt. Yeah, they seem to be. And then
I could go for that.
So I do feel like Britt's off of TV because if she's not the devil, I still feel like she's going to be involved in that storyline. And I think that's why they're holding her off of TV. And then they're we've seen, and Adam Cole, I know she's been, obviously, because he's recovering from surgery. I'm sure she's in real life is helping him with stuff. But yeah, so I think that's probably why she's off TV. But Britt is somebody they constantly kept even when she didn't have the title, they kept her on TV.
When she was hurt, they were bringing her out to the ring in a wheelchair.
Right.
I mean,
yeah. So that's why I was like, you can find stuff for Shida to do.
There's gotta be something.
Yeah. Brad said that Britt has worked through so many injuries, even just being around during the pandemic, she earned the time off. I completely agree. I just feel like there's more to her time off than just time off. I feel like she's going to be brought back into this storyline. Yeah, that's my guess. Could be completely wrong. Maybe she is getting Jon Moxley's vacation.
Yay. I don't know if he wants a vacation.
At this point, probably not. Because he's like that shit. He's busy with a Continental Classic.
Yeah, and it's good because I'm hoping the matches have been largely pretty good. I mean,
yeah, I think my match of the tournament thus far, which has only been 2 nights of matches,
right? Of course,
Brody King versus Eddie Kingston has been the best really match. That was. I really enjoyed that match. If you did not see last night, I'm about to spoil it for you. So you can mute this in 3, 2, 1. And you can come back in a couple of minutes. But Brody got the upset last night, which I thought was really cool. I was hoping Daniel Garcia would be the one to get the upset. I wanted him to get the upset over Claudio. I'm still hoping Daniel Garcia gets the upset somewhere in this tournament because they have got to rebuild this man and get him away from the stupid JAS stuff. So I'm hoping this tournament, if anything, just reminds people how good he is, which we've seen the last few weeks. Daniel Garcia has had some really great matches. But I was hoping he would be the one to upset Claudio last night. However, Brody versus Eddie was just, even before the upset, the match was just fantastic. They were just, Brody King is really underrated and has been, and we've seen him he got some big singles match wins here and there, over Darby and stuff like that, and then they backed off and kind of put him back in the trio stuff. But I thought he was fantastic last night, and he really made and I thought Eddie looked really good. It doesn't hurt Eddie to lose because it's a tournament. I just think I really just enjoyed that match. I thought it was really, really good. But yeah, and I think it's the thing with the Continental Classic. I think that it seems fairly obvious who's gonna win.
Do you think so?
Oh yeah, it's gonna be Eddie. I think it's either going to be, possibly Danielson, but Eddie is going to be he's going to be the first Triple Crown champion.
That makes sense because then he'll finally get his ROH belt. Finally,
he has the ROH belt. He has the ROH world title.
That's right.
He has the Japanese belt, and he's the one who pushed. But he's the All Japan fan. He's the one who made this be the one that wanted to be the Triple Crown. He's the one who he said last week. He was like, we said it before in the promo, and then he said it last week when they did this Continental Classic special, which I really enjoyed. I'm glad that they did that special where they highlighted everybody that's in the tournament. They hyped everybody. I thought the tournament was the special.
Was that the 1 o'clock in the afternoon thing that Tony?
Yeah, it was on YouTube. It was on YouTube, and I thought it was really cool. But so Eddie was he's like, my goal was win a title in Japan, win the ROH, or win a world title, and to become a Triple Crown champion. He's done 2 of those things. I think unless it's Danielson, I don't see how you can make anybody else be a Triple Crown champion. I think Eddie has to be the first one.
Well, and everybody loves Eddie. Even last night, I mean, he was so funny cutting his promos where he's like, I have to do this and waste time with the stupid camera. And I mean, but people go crazy for him. They just love him so much.
Right.
So I like that. So if you're right, then I like the idea of him getting upset early.
I think climbing Danielson,
out of it.
I think Danielson is possible just because it's his last full year wrestling. So they could kind of be you've done everything else in wrestling, we'll give you AEW's first Triple Crown champion. I guess that's potential. So I think it comes down between the two of them. But I want to see, the main thing I want from this, I want Daniel Garcia to have a really good tournament. I want Jay White to have a really good tournament because I want people to see what Jay White can do. I don't think the booking with MJF hurt him as nearly as bad as people like to say. I don't think it. The main event was stupid. We did because we obviously did the pre show, so we talked about.
Yeah, we haven't talked about. I love the Swerve Hangman match. I think that all the
Hangman
noise
Swerve
about it was great.
It was my favorite match, but I hated the stuff with MJF. I hated.
You didn't like the storyline thing.
He was going to be in the main event, so I hated the whole thing and how Adam Cole was going to wrestle for him. You don't have the type, like, that whole thing was just contrived and it was stupid, and it falls into everything that people are saying about AEW as far as being too sports entertainment. Like, that's the exact kind of bullshit that was.
Storyline did not work for you.
I hated that storyline. It was stupid. I'm not surprised.
I don't understand people. There was like these groups of people who were like, I'm like, did you think for 1 second that MJF wasn't wrestling in that main event? Like, that's
that's what I said. That's why
I don't understand like how anyone. I was like, this is like the oldest trick in the book, guys. This is like
exactly. Yeah, because I tweeted when they said that. I said, "Oh, there's still plenty of time for MJF to come back," because I knew. I
never doubted it for 1 second. I don't know why.
It was stupid and it was unnecessary. And clearly MJF, like we talked about, there's no way MJF is losing that title before going into World's End. If he could he win? Because could he lose it at World's End? Sure. Sure, he absolutely could. Especially because that's why the devil. And people are like, "Oh, we didn't get a devil segment." Well, the devil was standing right next to him. His name is Adam Cole. That's why we didn't get a devil segment. He was standing right next to him. And so I think the devil could I could think the devil will most likely cost him the title at World's End, or they get involved, and that's when the reveal happens, is in the main, because they've already made it. It's the main event. It's MJF versus Samoa Joe.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
Samoa Joe could very easily beat him. It's pretty much, we've talked about for months on end that we think MJF re-signed a long time ago. Reports came out last week that MJF had likely signed a long-term deal. I think
it's so funny because there's a group of us, like Viking Media and some of our friends, who are all just like, he signed a deal. Like, there's like a group, I know there's like at least a dozen of us who are like, we don't know for sure, obviously, but come on.
You and I have talked about, besides the fact that we think he's signed, but he's made comments like after the show. He's like, "Man, if I went to WWE, they would have given me the stereotypical Jewish name." Like, so he's made these comments that have pretty much made it seem like he's re-signed. I don't think he's going anywhere.
I don't think he would ever. He has so much freedom here. He's a huge champion. It's not going to hurt him to lose this belt coming up anyway. And
no, and
I think it was really cool to showcase. For those of you who were worried about Jay White will be fine. He's a wonderful, incredible talent. And this was just this is a step. This is how Jay White works. He does big matches to start out, and then he terrorizes people, and then he comes back and gets a bigger match. And then he might lose that one too, guys. And he'll still be over because he's
and
awesome.
That's why I was glad that Jay was in this tournament, because I was like, Jay is good at tournaments.
Yes,
been in quite a few G1s. I want him to have these matches so people are like, okay, he's gonna be all right.
Yeah, he's a good person. He's a perfect person to have in there because he knows how the structure works. So people should be like, help follow him. Like, he knows what to do.
This week we have Jay White versus Swerve. Is happening on Wednesday, which is going to be very good. But I would say, and if MJF were to lose to Samoa Joe, like, that's not going to hurt. That's not going to hurt MJF to lose to somebody like Samoa Joe. It's Samoa Joe. Come on. Just like Samoa Joe losing to Keith Lee would not have hurt him, but
I mean, you do the traditional thing. The guy loses the belt. He either goes nuts, like whatever or he takes some time off and disappears, and then like comes back strong. And it is what it is. Like,
yeah,
you can't hold the belt for. He's already beaten the record.
Yeah.
Like, he's the longest
so that's why I was
champion.
like, I can see him going in as champion to World's End, but because we're going into year 5, I could see MJF potentially losing the title in Long Island and it be at the hands of the devil, because I feel like Samoa Joe could potentially, after that segment on Wednesday, Samoa Joe seems to know who the devil is and is working with the devil to dethrone him.
Okay, so it's part of storyline, because that would be like, oh man, if he got
Samoa Joe
beat, but it was it was a mistake and he lost a triple bit, like, or if there was like bad interference and the devil cost him the belt in his hometown. Oh my gosh.
Yes. And if it's
we
Adam
get to
Cole,
see Nuclear Max.
Yes, and if Adam Cole is the devil and costs him the match and has been working with Samoa Joe this whole time, if Samoa Joe wins the title, Adam Cole or MJF is now free to do something with Adam Cole not as best friends, or if it's not him as the devil, if it's somebody else, he can do stuff with he can have a feud with the devil while Samoa Joe is doing title stuff. Like, so they've got that out if that's what happens, if that's how that plays out. If Britt is the devil, I think somebody could wrestle on her behalf, which would clearly be Adam Cole or Roderick Strong. They could do that. I think, there's that possibility too. I still don't think it's Jack Perry. I think Jack Perry is a red herring. I don't know how you people who heard him laugh got Jack Perry out of that on Wednesday. I think you're reaching, and I think it's a red herring, just like we talked about last week, the glass breaking and Bowen's going through the glass, I think, was a red herring. So people think that it's Jack Perry, and I don't think it's going to be Jack Perry. I think it's going to be, I won't be surprised if Jack Perry comes back soonish. I don't think he's the devil, though. I think that's just a red herring.
I don't, and it doesn't make sense to have him be the devil anyway, because that's kind of out of left field when there's plenty of other people that are perfect candidates to be the devil in storyline.
Yeah, I guess the story could be because MJF and Jack have.
Oh, well, they had beef because of the pillars.
And we've talked about, they'll probably be that one feud that those two that always wrestle each other.
Yeah.
At some point. So I guess that's plausible, but I feel like with the story that they've been telling, I feel like it's not Jack Perry. I think he's a red herring, and that they're playing into people who think it's Jack Perry.
I guess it could be him, but it's not the person that I think of when I'm like, I don't think it's him. It's not. It's not.
I don't think so either. Brad makes a really good point. I think I've seen this comment as well, that unless the finals are Eddie versus Jay and Jay wins, and that leads to a loophole of him being allowed to wrestle in New Japan again, in a New Japan ring again. But I wonder if that would be only on strong shows, or if they would let him actually go back to Japan. Which is really interesting, because I've seen that theory too, Brad.
That'd be crazy. Can you imagine if he came back on Wrestle Kingdom or something?
Yeah, because the Continental Classic ends, the final is at
World's on the 30th, and then Wrestle Kingdom is on the 4th of January.
We already know Danielson will be on that show. And so will a handful of other people, a handful of other New Japan people will be, AEW people. So that's a possibility too. USA VA guy says that New Japan fans aren't very fond of Eddie at the moment. That is the first I've heard of that. So that is very interesting. Daza, no, I was not upset by the blood, especially because
it's only boys. I think it's so funny how it seems like it's always boys on my timeline that are like, oh, we have to protect the women and children from the blood. And I'm like, and then the women are like, I love the blood match. Give me the blood match.
Like, give me more.
I think someone made the point, and I make this point all the time. Guys, like, we're built to birth another human. Like, what do you think that looks like? It's not like a pretty fun process. Like, go think, internet it. I mean, we're okay. We'll be all right. And anyone that's letting their child watch that is probably, hopefully, giving them context. I mean, we know that we have people on our network who have not younger, middle schoolers.
Sure.
That watch with them if they feel like it. I mean, and they're fine. Like, these kids today deal with way worse than what is going on. I mean, at least in this setting, they know that to a degree, it's like, this is choreographed. So I know that these guys are ultimately safe.
We knew going into this that this was a Texas death match. So that means blood. It's a death match.
It's in the, guys, it's in the name. I don't know.
Exactly. So if you felt like your child should not watch that, then obviously that's your prerogative. Or if they were, like you said, you give them context. If they watch AEW, they see Jon Moxley bleed.
I think it was I was listening to the Boom recap.
They see Cody Rhodes bleed a lot.
All the time.
And I know this is a bit different because it's a bit more violent and things like that. However,
but I think Kevin Neely,
if you're have your child watch that with you, then that is on you as a parent to talk to them about what they're going to see, or talk to them afterwards and be like, did that bother you in the future? If there's matches like this, do you want to not be in the room when this happens? Like, that's also some follow-up stuff that you should probably have with your child afterwards. But I love the match. It was my favorite match on the card. I think it was probably better than the first one. I do think we're getting I am voting for, after Swerve said it, I believe Swerve Hangman 3 happens at Wembley.
Yeah.
Hopefully there's some sort of a title on the line. I don't know that it will be the World Championship. I wouldn't be mad if it was I do want Swerve to be AEW World Champion. I don't know that that's their plans for him right now.
Right.
But I would not be mad if he was the internet. Like, I wouldn't be mad if he's the one to dethrone Orange Cassidy and become the international.
He is on fire too.
Excuse me.
He is really, really on fire right now.
Or he could defeat Christian, because Christian doesn't need the TNT Championship to tell the story he's telling. Like, it adds an extra layer, clearly.
Mm-hmm.
But Christian doesn't have to have that title. So I think that, and Christian has restored that title to what it means. It's not being hot-shotted around a lot. Perhaps he holds onto it a bit longer, and then maybe somebody like Swerve takes it. And I think Swerve is somebody who could really legitimize a TNT Championship while they're waiting for him to, because we talk about this all the time. They clearly lay out their champions at least a year in advance. So I don't know. Swerve has gotten really hot, but I don't know where he fits on what their big picture was. So maybe they are like, well, maybe he's not quite, maybe we don't have plans for him as world champion right now, but we can do some stuff and make him TNT champion, or we can make him international champion. That way he at least has a title. And then we can figure out, like, maybe we can put him in feuds that will lead him up to being, world champion in 2025 or something like that. Like, I don't necessarily want to see them wait that long, but I also know that AEW seems pretty married to the plans that they have, as we've seen. They tend to stick with their plan, no matter what. So I don't know if Swerve, because not that Swerve hasn't already, always been good, but he's really taken off the last few months, and I don't know what they already have pictured out. I would love to see Swerve as world champion. Like, I think that would be amazing.
That'd be great. I never thought that I would. I mean, I liked him as like him as a wrestler, but I was always like, not sure. And then he's really leveled up in the last year. He really
has. The story that they've given him,
he's become a big time wrestler. Like, he's a thing,
and he's earned, and that's the whole thing. Like, his story has been to prove that he's better than Hangman and that he deserved Hangman's spot. Well, he's proving that. And I think beating Hangman a second time at a Texas death match, which Adam Page is prolific in. And I think that's, I understand why they did that. And I think it was really smart. So I think that they are proving, you're proving his point. He is, he should have that spot. So then you would think that logically he should be a world champion, because Hangman was a world champion. So that should be a goal for them, is to get that title on him.
I really do, because I really think that he's gotten to a point where he can be in the discussion, and I would like, I can picture an AEW with Service champion. So
yeah, I can too. Like I think he would be a phenomenal champion, and he's so like I just really love the character work he's doing right now, and I do like because like I love the Nana stuff, but it's also really interesting to see how Swerve is going to be in this tournament without Nana out there. Which I think is because he didn't even come out to he didn't even dance the other night. Like he didn't even come out for even that part of it. So now Swerve is by himself. And so that's really interesting. And then we saw the way Jay White won his match the other day. He won with some nefarious tactics. And so it'll be interesting.
He won the Jay White way.
So that'll be interesting to see what happens going up against Swerve doing that type of stuff. So I'm really interested to see.
That should be a really, really fun match.
Yeah, and Benkin says Swerve versus Jay White sounds like a time limit draw. Yeah, I've been waiting on a time limit draw match.
That could happen.
I've been I thought a time limit draw match was going to happen the first night, but Benkin, I think you're right. I could see that being a time limit draw match. And Daza brought up something that I was gonna mention, and then we started talking about the stuff with it, and I got sidetracked. Yes, I did see the video from Dynamite where it looks like Cole is putting his hands in his pocket a second before the lights go out. The devil appears on the screen. Then it looks like he's clicking it off when it comes back. I have seen that, which is probably maybe a little bit of a red herring, or maybe it's in plain sight where they drop the stuff right in front of us. So it could be that too. But yes, I definitely
foreshadowing. They're foreshadowing.
Yes, definitely. And Brad makes a really good point that MJF loses the title due to the devil. MJF has to re-sign with AEW so that he can go after the devil, who is Adam Cole.
That's good. I like it.
I could see that happening as well. Daza said this whole allowing. Oh, this is going back to the main event last week, on Full Gear. This whole allowing people to defend each other's titles is bollocks. What happened to the AEW where wins and losses matter and title contenders had to make sense. No, I agree. Because even with the win-loss stuff going away where they quit because they booked themselves into a corner doing that.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense, and it's stupid, and I hope they don't do that anymore. Let's see. Brad said just an interesting thing last night. The Kingdom used their theme from when Taven was the leader. Prior to that, they used the theme from Cole as the leader. Yes, I did hear that. I did realize that they came out to that last night, but I wasn't thinking about the time. So that's very, see, they keep doing these little things, and which makes it more fun. Vinkin says, now here's the fun theory. What if Moxley wins the C2 and becomes the Triple Crown champion and loses it to Finlay at Wrestle Kingdom? I feel like somebody may have mentioned that before, or maybe, I don't know about him. Listen, I love Jon Moxley, and I would not be mad at him for winning the Triple Crown champion.
No.
Finlay is really interesting because I think Finlay has been given a raw deal. As far as Finlay is trying his best to make a name for himself and to do this character and to come in after Jay White. And I really like Finlay. And I think it's just going to take time, because sometimes with certain wrestlers, it takes time to build their story. I don't think this is going to be an evil thing where it's just going to blow up on everybody's faces. I do feel like he's cooled off a little bit, and you have to do something to make him more, I don't know if credible is the word that I want to use, but I don't know if putting the Triple Crown, I don't know if I don't like that. I don't know that I like that.
Sam's a no on that one.
Yeah, I think I'm a no, but Vinkin, that is some interesting possibility. And there are so many things at play here with this tournament that could end up being something we see down the line as this tournament continues and what New Japan gets out of it. Because I think at some point, I would think that you have to have New Japan wrestlers in the C2, because it is a Triple Crown where you're defending ROH.
One of them is and one of them is the New Japan.
You gotta give New Japan some stuff here. Perhaps Will Ospreay eventually becomes a Triple Crown. And that helps Will to wrestle in Japan, because he's supposed to still wrestle in Japan at some point. But yeah, so I think that this tournament, it'll be really interesting to see how it plays out. And then it goes. Yeah, and I'm kind of wondering, because that brought us back to one of the things we were going to talk about, which was how the New Japan fans have responded to Ospreay signing. But I want to finish this first. But that kind of plays into, could play into the Triple Crown thing too, because the person who wins the Triple Crown on paper should be going to defend the Triple Crown in ROH on AEW television and in New Japan, which of course leads back to Brad's theory about Jay White potentially winning, and that's the loophole for him to wrestle in Japan again. I can see Eddie continuing to wrestle in Japan. Danielson, can he, if he stays healthy? So I would hope that Tony allows these people the winner to wrestle in Japan more often and isn't just a kind of a one-sided thing. But that does lead to the possibility of potentially more, maybe in the next C2, that we see some Japanese talent involved in this tournament. Or if he loses, maybe to a David Finlay or to somebody, or, maybe he loses to Shingo or something like that.
Oh, there you go.
Then Shingo has those titles, and so then hopefully that would lead to Shingo and AEW some. I can see it so perhaps at Forbidden Door, the Triple Crown champion loses, and that's how we get a new Triple Crown champion, is at Forbidden Door. There's Wrestle Dream, where these things could happen. You could send people to Wrestle Kingdom, so the possibilities are good. It's just Tony has to follow up on them. And then also has to work into Ghetto's booking as well, because obviously Ghetto is pretty meticulous about how he
and he can pivot. He's fine when he's fine. He's like, okay, this isn't working. Time to reset. He does that over and over. Like he could. I hope that maybe Tony will learn something from Gato while he's working with him.
Right. Well, then there's also Rocky. Like Rocky could be a Triple Crown champion. And Rocky is somebody who already, his match last night with Hook was really good. That's
why I'm wearing my Rocky Romero shirt today.
As you should, yes.
And then I saw someone, I think maybe it was Brad even, that was tweeting about the fact that it'd be cool to see him do a junior heavyweight, do a tour in Japan, Hook. And because he would come back changed. And I'm like, yes, he would. That would be amazing. That was a fun match. Rocky's the perfect person. I love watching him wrestle. He loves to wrestle. It's so much fun. And
while we're on this topic, because I was going to bring this up. So last night on Rampage, the main event was Shibata was facing Wheeler Yuta, and he put the Pure title on the line. And of course, this was another one of those where I joked, and Brad saw this too, where they joked about, or how we joked again. I'm like, oh, look, another Ring of Honor title match happening on AEW television. And then my other question was, Final Battles in 3 weeks. You couldn't wait to have this match. Then Wheeler wins. He beats Shibata, drops him on his head. He does a low blow, which in the Pure Rules match, if you're not familiar, low blows are an automatic disqualification. Mike Posey was turned the opposite way. He missed the low blow. So he low blows him, drops him on his head, pins him. Then after the match, drops him on his head again. And obviously, if you know anything about Shibata, dropping Shibata on his head is not a good thing.
It's not something it's not something that gives us warm fuzzies.
No, it does not. It makes us no. And so Hook comes out for the save. And so now Hook is kind of involved in this picture. So I was just like, what the hell is happening? Then a select came out a little bit later, and it turns out that Shibata has to go to Japan very quickly. They couldn't wait for Final Battle. They had to do the match last night. He and ROH came up with the story that Wheeler Yuta would cheat to beat him. Dropping him on his head gives him where he's a no contact for a little bit, because it sounds like to me it's a visa issue that's not been clarified, but having to rush back to Japan and not knowing how long he's going to be gone sounds like a visa thing to me. And so it gives Shibata has been dropped on his head twice, so now he can't be cleared. That gives, he's not going to come back for a rematch anytime soon. Gives him a plausible reason to be off TV for an extended period of time until they get all that stuff straightened out. And then, because one of the things I brought up was how Josh Woods has been trying, his whole story for like 4 months has been going for the ROH Pure title and how he wanted to do it. And Brad pointed out to me last night that Josh is not, even though he's with Smart Mark Sterling, he's not a cold-blooded heel, and he would not have he wouldn't have wrestled Shibata the way that Wheeler Yuta did. And so in storyline, it makes more sense for Yuta to be the one, especially because we've seen a more aggressive Yuta as of late. He's been cutting these more heel promos. He seems to kind of finally be getting into his promo side of things, and so it makes more sense. He's the only one not. So before I knew about the Shibata stuff, I jokingly tweeted that Wheeler Yuta is the only Blackpool Combat Club wrestler not in the Continental Classic.
Yeah, so not in the Classic.
So he's like, I'm gonna drop Shibata on his head and take his belt. So I said it as a joke, but then I kind of guess that's what they were doing with it. Oops. And so I was like, it looks like Hook will probably be the next one to challenge him. I'm guessing that's our final battle match. Then Josh Woods is still there. Josh Woods can still try to go after Yuta. They can kind of keep that storyline going. Hopefully this means that the belt will still be on Honor Club more often, but Yuta is also Blackpool Combat Club, so I won't be surprised if he's defending it on TV more often. But I do, and then Ian Riccaboni pointed out that that Yuta is the first 3-time Pure champion, which is really cool and makes sense for Yuta and what they're doing. So I like it now that I know the full story. Makes more sense. I hope Shibata gets everything taken care of. Yeah, and we have a comment here. Shibata's dealing with some issues. He had to return to Japan immediately. I'm hoping that it was visa stuff and not family stuff. I hope.
Yeah, I hope it's not health or something.
Yeah, I hope that. Yeah, I hope it's not health.
Having to drop everything
or somebody in his family who is dealing with any health related stuff. Hopefully,
dropping everything and leaving.
I'm hoping it's just something as simple as a visa and not anything.
You need to come home and sign a new paper.
Yeah, hopefully it's nothing more serious. But yeah, so it'll be interesting to see how that plays out with Yuta and where that leaves Josh Woods and the story he's been trying to tell for a while and how that dynamic plays out. And then we have someone here that was Hassan was saying that in my opinion, Hook needs a lot of development, especially character-wise, and this could be the thing to do it. I think that potentially not that I think he'll win the Pure title, but perhaps wrestling a Pure style will be, kind of
can only help him to wrestle people like that.
And I do think he needs some more development, and so maybe sending him to ROH where he's wrestling guys like Josh Woods and there's Ethan Page's down there. Fred Rosser came back last week and wrestled.
Oh, nice.
They had we've had, there was a really good match last week. It was Willie Mack versus Lee Johnson versus Fred Rosser versus Jack Cartwheel. It was a lot of fun. Lee Johnson got the win, which was really cool to see, and to see that kind of a push. And he beat Fred Rosser to win. And obviously, Fred Rosser is a former was the first strong champion at that. So it was really cool to see. So maybe sending Hook to ROH to have some matches, maybe that wouldn't be such a bad thing. And we saw the character development that Yuta had, and they could potentially do some stuff like that with Hook. But now we have Danhausen back too, and so Hook has his chemistry, and Hook and Danhausen have this really crazy chemistry that somehow works.
It's weird, but
so I think there's some. Yeah, I think there's definitely some stuff there that they can do with Hook. Let me go back to some of these other comments here. Where Taza said he was joking about the blood. He was mocking Dave with his women don't like blood comments. Yeah, I've seen.
I figured as much. That's why I said something. Yeah. So I had a good feeling we were on the same page on that one.
Yes. Brad said Kathy went to bed early, but she's been to GCW death matches with me. I have a little issue with her watching it. Yes.
Well, and these two are going to say is Kevin Ely was saying that his daughter, who has been starting to casually watch with him, she's like, I don't like Moxley. He bleeds too much. And she just leaves it. And that's the part but she loves MJF.
Right.
So great. Like, I mean, it's just like any wrestling fan, like what you like. It's
Yeah.
so,
I agree. And I knew,
they
and there
do
was
get
like
very
a lot of
productive, and he did make a really just like it was a very kind of tone deaf sort of
and
comment
someone
about
else,
losing
there
women
was
because of the
also
blood. And I'm like,
another person who whose initials are JC, who also made some comments about how AEW are losing women fans. Yet this is the same man who says that women only watch wrestling because they want to sleep with wrestlers. So
well, I mean, that guy needs to.
he needs a lot, but it's just
I
interesting
know
that
of several large bodies of water that he can go jump into.
Yes.
I mean, they're right near me.
Yes. And another thing with Swerve and Hangman, I figured before it came, because it was confirmed that they talked some spots out, the bleeding in the mouth spot
Thing,
was approved. Hangman and Swerve are very smart. I don't see either of them not being tested before they work a match like that. Like, I feel like I was like, they're not. I was like, Hangman and Swerve are smart wrestlers. Like, I trust
been
what
around
they're
for
doing.
a long time, guys.
I
mean, they've been
Hangman
on the
has
indie
done
scene like before that, so they
Hangman
know.
does like 2 death matches a year. Like, I think my guy gets tested and knows what he's I feel like he's got a good, he knows what he's doing. And and Swerve apparently was doing, because I didn't watch a lot of Lucha Underground, because again, I didn't have access to it. But from what I understand, he was doing death matches over there. So I feel like Swerve knows what he's doing too. Swerve's been around a long time as well. I feel like I'm very comfortable with them in the ring. Like, I don't question that they're being
one
dumb
thing
or
to
dangerous.
say that you don't like blood, but don't say that like women don't like blood, and we need to protect the children from the blood. It's like, no. If you don't like the blood in the match and you don't like the death match, then you don't like the death match, and then you don't watch it. You watch the next thing, and that's fine.
Yeah,
but like,
that's
you don't need
fine.
to make like
and it's really
excuses, and
interesting
you don't
because
need to like justify it. It's okay if you don't like it.
yeah, and then that's what's interesting is that was a 5-star match, but then I saw like the shot that came with it was something about how Dave didn't like it, but he knew that other fans did. But he typically, from what I understand, typically doesn't like death matches
He's
and
not a
tends
big
to
death
grade
match
them
fan.
lower. So had he graded that lower on the basis that that's not his type of deal, like, I think people would have got it. So it's an interesting
But
that
he didn't do that. He does at least recognize the value of the match. But I think that is something important to point out, is that in that case, it did get 5 stars. It was awesome. So like,
the match was great.
Mean, he didn't let his bias towards death matches.
And they told a story.
They did tell a story.
And I mean, the man broke into his house with his child home. How do you think Hangman's going to react? Of course, he's going to staple his child's artwork to his face.
I think it was, if someone like did that to like my family, I don't know, like, I think a stapler would be like a nice thing to be
right. Yeah, right.
Razor wire and staplers would be like the least of what I would be coming after you.
And then Swerve knew it, and Swerve knew what he was doing. So Swerve's like, well, I'm getting chains and I'm going to choke this man. Like,
kind of my favorite match on the card when it's all like,
it was my favorite. It was my favorite match on the card.
I mean, I didn't hate the show, but
I really enjoyed the first match. I thought that was a lot of fun. It was way more fun than I thought it was going to be. I really enjoyed that was the 6-man with Sting and Adam and Darby versus Christian and Nick.
Yeah, that was
Kill
Switch, I don't feel like I liked the show. I thought it was good.
There were things that I did like about it.
The storyline thing is very WWE to me. So that's
the match
where
itself, the match itself between MJF and Jay White was fine.
The
storyline was stupid as hell. Dawson said it's time we had a really scary, dangerous feeling world champion, and Swerve would be awesome, like a heel Steve Austin if done properly. I like that. I like that, Dawson.
He will make a good AEW champion one day.
I think so too. Colin says Jay White light equals David Finlay. That's what I have heard.
I mean, he's not wrong. Jay is so talented, though. It's almost not fair to compare people to Jay.
No, it really isn't. And I mean, I guess that was kind of David Finlay's not his fault, because Gato was the one who put him in this
really
position.
not. He's a great wrestler, I think. But if you have to hold them together, like against each other, it's going to be.
And Brad says that he's a big Finley guy. I loved him as part of Finjuice. Love Finjuice. I'm a huge fan of them.
Definitely.
And I think he's done a good job. Now fans hated Jay White until he took over Bullet Club too. Hatred for Finley is really weird to me. Yeah, people hated Jay White a lot.
I don't know. I'm not watching. I'm not as caught up on New Japan right now.
Either.
But I mean, I loved hating Jay White, so it was okay with me. I don't know if I would. I'm not in a place where I can confidently say I love or don't love David Finley as love or hating him at this point.
Yeah. And then we have a comment here from Benny. It says, hey, Sam and Mel, I'd like to make the case for Mox winning the Triple Crown. That would solidify Mox being the U.S. ace. That's a very valid point. Very valid point. And I could definitely see that. Like, again, like there's good arguments for a lot of people. And like Mox is that, like, I think for me, Mox is that guy without the Triple Crown. But I think that you're right that solidifies that was probably solidify like that it would be hard to argue against it when you've got that as well. And so and John Moxley is like, I would have no problem with him being the first Triple Crown champion.
No, honestly, most of the people that are in this tournament, I would be fine with.
Right.
And it does make, I mean, it does make a lot of sense, Funny. Like, I think that you're not wrong about the idea of that, because he really, and he has carried the company in a lot of ways during some really troubled times. And his name's not in the news. His name's not on the Twitter. His name's not out there unless it's for doing good work for his company. I mean, so it's, I'm all right with that though. I mean, I hope this tournament does well, because I love the idea of having a tournament.
Me too. I really do too. And Mel,
if
you've watched this show, or if you're new here, Mel and I love the G1.
We love
we get very excited for G1 season.
That time of the year.
And we love BOSJ. So we love the New Japan style of tournaments. I like the round robin tournament here. I like it much better than the eliminator tournaments and things like that. So I hope this is successful.
We understand tournament math. We're not dumb Americans who can't understand it.
We do understand
that argument. That argument is out there. Is it the reason that they don't do tournaments in America? Is Americans don't understand tournaments?
What?
And I'm like,
it's not hard.
It's not hard, but there is something of a valid point to that, because other than like March Madness, there's the whole world participates in, like, the Euro League and the World Cup and stuff. So they understand, or just, I mean, I was a soccer player, so tournament rules to me are like second nature. I've played since I was 5 years old. Like, 2 points for a win, 0 points for a loss.
Right.
If you get a draw, you get 1. And then if you have a tie, it goes to points.
Yeah.
Like, it is what it is. It's really easy. There you go. I just gave you a tutorial on tournament.
Betty also said Hook versus Lee Moriarty. Yes, please. Gosh, yes. Yeah. And I listen, I love Lee Moriarty with Shane Taylor, but can Lee Moriarty please have his music back? Because it is twice
last night. You and Nikki
last night he did not have his music. On ROH the other night, he did not have his music. And Lee Moriarty's match, as my sister says, is a vibe. Please give Lee Moriarty his music back. I am really excited that we do have Dante Martin coming back.
I know.
It was announced because last week it came out that he was getting close to a return, but they didn't know if they would have anything for him. I'm like,
why?
They wrestle, and him and Dante and Darius and Action Andretti wrestle as a tag team in ROH. Then they would just be a trios. I'm sorry.
Actually, that's a really good way to work him back in, because
in ROH
he can get his ring time he needs.
Yes, and in ROH it's 6-man, not trios. So 6-man matches.
So that's a really good way to just get him back, get him warmed up, get him back in the groove, get the ring rust off.
Cockfight is a phenomenal tag team,
of course,
and they both did really well in singles competition. Action is a good singles wrestler, but they all have this real Action and the Martin brothers have very good chemistry, and they have worked out very well. But then, so I'm glad that they replayed what happened, since TNT cut to commercial for Dante's big return. I mean, granted, it wasn't in a match, it was a backstage segment, but like that's his big return. Because I knew as soon as I heard, because Dante said, we've been teaming together for 8 months, and I was like, oh hell yeah, Dante's about to come back. And it cut to commercial, and I was like, are you kidding me? And then Brad tweeted and was like, Dante's back, what a pop. And I was like, I missed it. I love Dante.
I know. I was watching, I was listening to not listening. I was reading the thread in our Discord. Because I was like, well, good job, stupids. Like Bob laughed at me because I was like, except you went right to commercial as soon as he was about to talk, assholes. And I was so mad.
Oh, I was pissed.
And I thought it was my thing. Like, I thought it was my local advertiser.
I did too. And then I found AEW's tweet, and people, so many replies.
And everybody on Twitter was talking about it. And I was like,
I thought it was a regional thing too.
Because I was so mad at my local cable provider. I was like, you asshats, like what happened?
I was too. And then they replayed it, so I was like, well, at
and
least
then I was like,
that.
Nope, it's just more production problems with Rampage and Collision,
which
were happening.
I don't know if maybe the 3-hour thing threw them off because they had Rampage an hour,
but it was really bad last night.
I don't know what happened there, but I'm excited to see him back on Wednesday. I'm glad he's back. Hope they kill it. I hope they go do some stuff down in the ROH. Vinkin says, you know who apparently was a maniac at Lucha Underground was Penta. Yeah,
I know that's because my cousin is like his intro to Penta and Phoenix was Lucha Underground. That's how I even first heard about them. I didn't watch the show, but that was him watching the show. I watched them when I watched the Vice documentary that they were in, and then when they made their debut on AEW, that's basically
I had seen them on. I want to say I did see them on that Vice documentary, and then I feel like I saw them on a few indie shows or something. So when they brought them in for All In, I was familiar with them and I loved them, and then Nikki and I we did a meet and greet with them.
Oh,
and got to meet them. And they were really awesome. And I love they're a tag team that the more I watch them, the more I love them. Mm-hmm. And I love them as singles competitors. I think they're phenomenal. And just I think I love the Lucha Brothers. I think I love them so much. Brad said that, Daza said that some of the most passionate horror movie fans he knows are women.
Yeah. Right here, hon. You're looking at them.
Horror films are not my thing, not because of the blood, but because they're gonna give somebody a bad idea. And
I'm a horror fan. All the way.
You're gonna give somebody a bad idea, and it's gonna be me. Of all the people that are gonna be victims, it's me. They're gonna come for me.
Oh no, I hear what you're saying, because like when you watch the ones like Seven and things like that, it's just like, oh my god, like what really threw me off about that when I saw that.
And it's funny because I love psychological thrillers. I watch true crime documentaries. I grew up watching 2020, so I always watch that type of stuff. So
murder porn.
Yeah, I love and I think part of it too is because I think it also gives women a way to look out for red flags that they may not see. It gives you self-defense things that you could do if you're in a situation where, I guess phone cords being cut doesn't really matter now because 2023 people don't have phone cords. But you get these. So for me, it's stockpiling information. Okay, if I'm
but that's true for horror too, because people make terrible decisions in horror movies over and over.
Run upstairs instead of out.
What are you doing?
All right. Exactly.
You smash his face all the way in, not part of the way in. He always is gonna get up.
Yes. Don't run upstairs, run out the front door.
Yeah, I love that there was an ad. There's an ad.
Yes, that commercial, the Halloween where they make fun of.
Where they just made straight fun of it, and I was like, thank you. And the girls, although Cabin in the Woods is one of the best horror movies that makes fun of horror movies that I've probably seen in the last 10 or 15 years. It's great. It's fantastic because it's just there's a whole back room section to it. It's wonderful. Have you seen Cabin in the Woods?
No, I haven't, but
you might actually like that one.
Heard really good stuff about it.
You might like that one because of there's a lot of like they drop. There's some dropping of kayfabe in it that would I think make you laugh, like and that you would enjoy the horror aspect of it because it sort of it does a fun. I don't want to spoil it, but I think you'd like it. I think you and Nikki
put that on my list.
It doesn't. I mean, it's not a scary horror movie with crazy. It's fun. it's fun horror.
I might have to put that on my list. Brad says, I'm still wondering where Hangman's wife was during that. Either she was out and left the baby alone or she was really, really heavy sleeper. I'm going with the latter, Brad. That's what I'm telling myself. She's a very heavy sleeper.
Yeah, I don't know. I hope that like nothing bad happened to her and that was like, I mean.
Yeah, I hope Swerve didn't do anything to her and we just don't know about it.
Or conked her on the head and then went for the baby. That would be way too far. Like
it would be. Daza said that Mel, he wants to hear you talk about horror films sometime. That might have to be a Patreon show. Mel, maybe Mel started a Patreon show. Mel talks horror films.
We need our own overtime on Fight Game Media where we do stuff like that.
There we go.
Then Daza and I can talk about the wrestling finally too.
There we go.
The book, the wrestling.
So I do want to start before we get to this next thing. I do want to circle back around because it is in our title. Is about because we talked a little bit about New Japan. Well, just fan response to Ospreay, and now we're finding out that maybe New Japan fans are not too happy with Eddie at the moment, which is news to me. I was not aware of that, so that is good to know now. But there was some response to Will Ospreay signing with AEW that was kind of interesting from New Japan fans that I follow who are primarily New Japan fans and either don't watch AEW or New Japan is their number one promotion and then AEW is their number two. And some of them were not thrilled with Tony announcing Will Ospreay signing prior to Wrestle Kingdom. They thought that it took away from Wrestle Kingdom or it pretty much... Some of them think, obviously, then that means Will Ospreay is losing, even though he's got a title. Like, how does that play out? And then does David Finlay automatically win? And they think it takes away from New Japan and whatever they're doing, and that they think that they shouldn't have paraded him around like that. Which I thought was interesting. I mean, I get it. I understand that argument. However, I just really think I think Will Ospreay knew well in advance he was not coming back to New Japan because they could not afford him. And so he just was like, and from what I've read, he saw that he told New Japan he wasn't signing and he asked for permission to talk to other companies and was granted that permission. I would assume because of the relationship New Japan has with Tony, that Tony probably told them ahead of time, hey, we're going to go ahead and make this announcement here at Full Gear. I think part of that was so WWE doesn't try to take, like, WWE knows he's off limits, he's ours, and that type of thing. Maybe a little bit of a pissing contest.
Sure. Yeah. But clearly it had an effect because
clearly it did. But yeah, so... But then that got into the topic of, so as I'm reading some of these comments, that gets to the conversation of AEW is very one-sided in their relationship with New Japan, as in they don't send stars over there. And I was like, Eddie Kingston just spent 5 weeks at the G1. Danielson has been over there several times. He's going to be on Wrestle Kingdom. Mox is over there as often as he can be. He is going to be at Wrestle Kingdom. They've got talent, and like, I get it, because you don't want New Japan, because New Japan and Impact kind of had that relationship too. And somebody pointed out how the last Multiverse show, the only non-Impact wrestler to win a match was Julia, So if somebody was like, that sounds like it's a New Japan problem and not necessarily an Impact or AEW problem. And maybe New Japan doesn't know how to book. Like, they're not saying, hey, this needs to be equal. And I'm not unsure. Who knows? Maybe Geto was like, hey, don't treat us like this. And then Scott and Tony are like, whatever, we're doing what works for us. I mean, I'm not saying that couldn't be happening, but it's just a really interesting conversation. And yeah, and Venkin says Archer is there more than any of them. Yeah, and Archer seems to be, as far as I can tell, seems to be pretty over with the Japanese fan. He's more over in New Japan than he's ever been in AEW.
I don't think it proves that Will Ospreay is going to lose at all. I think, and Jim Valley made this point, I think, online. He may have talked about it. I missed his show yesterday because reasons.
Right.
But Tony made it so that Will can continue to wrestle in New Japan. And so there's absolutely no reason why Will couldn't retain that title, bring it to AEW, defend it in AEW, and go back to Japan and drop it to a Japanese wrestler, or have Forbidden Door where
kind of
a
like
Japanese
the US
wrestler picks it up. I mean, it's not as if it's not a foregone conclusion at all. He could very well retain that title.
Yeah, and I understand the fear that saying, "Oh, Ospreay is allowed to come finish up things," and then he doesn't, or it counts, or they're
absolutely.
like, "Oh, well," or he, perhaps he only wrestles on Wrestle Dream and Forbidden Door, and then they're like, "Okay, well, that's not the same thing because it's not in Japan." Like, so I get the fear beyond it, but I don't think that it's necessarily fair to say that AEW doesn't give them stars when they do. Maybe it's not as often as it should be. And there was some, and I will even say that AEW and Impact, their relationship was very one-sided when Kenny Omega was the champion and Kenny Omega was in Impact. And there should have been more, we should have been getting the women coming through the Forbidden Door. That was something I fussed about all the time. So because the women were asking for it. And even when I went to Double or Nothing, I went to the media scrum and I asked Tony, I asked him about women coming back and forth, and he was like, "Oh, well, there will be wrestlers." And he specifically mentioned Private Party and made it sound like Private Party was going to be an Impact more, and then that never happened for whatever reason. Maybe Impact didn't want it, or it just they went a different direction, or whatever it was. So I mean, I can see. I mean, there have been instances where Tony has appear to have taken more than he has given. And so I will definitely concede that. And I really wish Impact, because I watch Impact. So I really wanted, so yeah, we did get Motor City on AEW, which was great, but I wanted to see the women's matches. The women were clamoring for matches. Like the women were like, I want to wrestle Deonna Purrazzo. Deonna and Britt Baker are best friends. They were like, they went to Tony and Scott and were like, we want to wrestle each other. Make it happen, and they never did for whatever reason. So there definitely is and I'm not trying to say that Tony is perfect in any way, so I can understand some of the concerns. However, I think it's unfair to say that they don't send stars when they send Danielson, they send Omega, they send
someone made the point that and I was gonna say it and someone else tweeted it before I got to it, is that but look at how New Japan booked Kiyomiya for the G1 tournament. Yep. And I think that no company is going to want their guys to be to take the losses. Like all companies are going to look out for their best interests. That's
right.
The reason it's always difficult to balance out having relationships between wrestling companies. That's a story as old as time. Look at what a mess the NWA previous to Billy Corgan was, and how bad it was for wrestling at times.
Yes. And Brad, this is another thing that I was going to bring up, and then that was one of the matches that I forgot about, and I was actually going to bring that up. BCC they just had them over there. Claudio had his very first match in New Japan just a few months ago, and it screwed up ROH tapings. And while he was champion, they screwed their own champion to let him go to Japan. And yes, so Brad brings this up too. About Kiyomiya. It says, should we talk about how New Japan treats other companies? How about Kaito Kiyomiya was treated during the G1? How Gates of Agony have won 0 matches because they're currently in Japan for the World Tag League? Or how New Japan treated ROH previously? And Venkin was asking Brad how other non-Japan guys are doing in that tournament, or non-New Japan talent. And he says Archer and Zayn are doing very well, but they love Archer there, and he has the history. Yeah, Archer's always going to be, I think Archer will always be a made man in Japan. And it says, how do you pronounce his last name? Is it Owa? I'm not sure how to pronounce that.
Yeah,
Forgive
I
me.
think so.
But he and Kiyomiya are doing okay at best, but they have a vested interest as Oa is their guy. And he says the CMLL guys are doing okay. And that's a relationship they've had for a really long time. So it is like, and I don't think that, and I'm not saying
they
that
kind of got to a point where they can do the AAA and CML thing if they do it right. So
yeah, and you still have to be careful with that. And they have to be, I mean, that's the thing, because like Andrade was complaining last week about how he's only ever been on 2 AEW pay-per-views. Well, part of that is the CMLL relationship. They have to be in AAA, like they have to be careful on who's booked on what. So there's a lot of politic in there. Andrade missed a lot of time because he had surgery. Then Andrade got himself suspended because he was trying to get himself fired. So he kind of
punching someone.
Yes. So
by punching someone, he punched someone to try and get fired.
Yes. So some of it you did to
like
yourself,
a baby.
So some of it you did to yourself. But yeah, and so but that relationship with CMLL and AAA, you've got to be careful. So that means that sometimes Vikingo's on this show, that means that this person can't be on the show, and now you've got the LFI. Like it's a very complex thing that you have to try to make work. And again, like I'm not saying that the New Japan fans are necessarily wrong in their opinion, but I think that you have to point out these. It's not.
We're all gonna.
It's not as cut and dry as Tony doesn't send us stars, when that's very clearly not the case. When we can point we just named off like 6 examples from the last year.
Like, well, and I mean, there were 2 match of the year Omega Ospreay matches this year. 2.
Yes.
Not 1. 2.
Right.
And Forbidden Door is not I mean, it's a co-show. It's a super show. It's no different than
Geto and Tony
Madison
Square Garden
with ROH. Like it's a super show.
Yes. Like, so I could, I mean, so yes, sure, I could understand their frustrations, but I think, and you have to, like Brad, you and Brad both pointed out, like New Japan has done it themselves
they've done their
share. With Noah.
Everybody does.
Yeah, they do. They all do. But yeah, so
they have, I mean, in their problem right now, obviously, is that they're I mean, our economy isn't awesome either. But because they waited so long, they're really struggling. So
yeah, yes. That does play a huge, when we've talked about that many times, how their economy plays a huge factor. And in this, from what I read, Will be able to continue to live in the UK while he works for AEW,
I saw that too.
Which is because obviously that's what Pac does. I mean, I don't know where Pac is right now, but that's what Pac was doing. Pac was flying back and forth between the UK and the US and doing shows and things like that. And so you know, Will's got his new kitchen that he's got to enjoy.
Gotta have it.
But yeah, so that'll be
interesting. I think that once things get going, it will be okay.
And I do hope Tony holds up his end of the deal. Like I hope that Will is allowed to go back and wrestle in Japan. Like, do I think he's going to be in the G1? No. I think that just G1 days are probably behind him. He's not going to be in the New Japan Cup or anything like that. But I could see him going over for some of the bigger shows, or doing some sort of an angle, and then they bring it back for Forbidden Door, or they do it for Wrestle Dream or something like that. Like, I don't think.
Well, and he said he wants an all-in match because duh.
Yeah. And there's I've heard a rumor of an all-in match, and I don't know how true it is, but I have heard a rumor that Ospreay's getting clearly he's getting an all-in match. He's in the poster, but I've heard a rumor of what the plan is. I don't. Again,
is it Okada, Omega, and Danielson and?
It is not
Ospreay.
It is. It's no.
If it's Okada Omega, I might actually have to fly to freaking London.
I don't know. Maybe Okada Omega are doing their own things separately from.
I mean,
Will
if that
Ospreay,
happens, I don't know.
But the match that I have heard, I mean, Will Ospreay clearly. I mean, like he talked about All In, and he's on the post. Like I think he's already on the poster that they put out.
I think so too. I think
you're
right.
They hid Tony. Tony Storm is posed very weird, and she's almost covered by the All In logo. I don't know what the hell they were doing, but yeah. So there's a.
We need to get Mike Gilbert on that, Mike and JD on that shit, because those guys make the best freaking photoshops ever.
Yeah. Right? Let them fix it. But yeah, so
let them fix your poster, please.
Cards obviously subject to change, but yeah, there's a big match that I have heard that Ospreay is going to be getting at All In. I don't know if I should say, because I don't know how accurate. It was told to me.
Hey, you can wildly speculate. We can we need a little graphic that's like wild speculation.
I was told this match by someone who was told, so it's, I guess, technically third party. This person was told by somebody who is likely in the know, and this person shared this information with me. And so that's the. I'm not
tell me off air. It's okay.
Yeah. So we'll see. Again, because there were some things that Mel and I heard earlier this year for All In that didn't pan out. Like there were several matches,
all kinds of things. Actually,
yeah, there were several things that changed, and so
things change all the time.
Yeah, and of course you have to. There's injuries factor into it as well. But people keep making a big deal. People keep making a big deal about MJF not being on the poster, and I'm like, the damn storyline is the bidding war of 2024. Of course he's not on that poster.
Right. Why would
I'm sure he'll be on that poster January the 2nd, but
right. Or January the 5th. Maybe he'll show up at the Wrestle Kingdom.
Maybe a New Year Dash. MJF.
Oh, there you go. He could show up at New Year Dash too.
There we go.
That's a star.
There we go. Venkin says, do you expect we're going to remember this in a half a year? If it comes to fruition, yes.
Yeah, I mean, if it happens, yes, but
and because it seems very plausible that this match is going to happen, so you might remember.
We'll get to it.
But yes, we'll get there. We'll see. Maybe I'll just throw it out there one day and we'll see what happens.
You guys will have to follow us on Twitter and Instagram and all those other socials, because you just never know when we could really just tell you something amazing. Some information, especially Sam. I'm not Scoopster lady. I'm
yeah. This information completely came out of nowhere. Like I was not expecting this person to give me this information.
Those are always the weirdest.
Yeah, I mean it's a person I'm friends with, and I mean you know them too, and so it just. They were just like, hey, we were talking about a different situation and it kind of tied into that. And they're like, hey, well, have you heard this? And then they told me, and I was like, oh, okay, well, that makes sense. If that's how this plays out, then that makes sense, type of thing. And that's so
honestly, you guys are nerds enough to be watching us for the last 2 hours. You can probably put it all together yourself if you think on it hard enough.
Probably.
I mean, because we have a smart audience. They're good bookers.
We do. But
we get free information.
Listen, we get free booking information on the show, whether it's from me or you or the people in the comments or us brainstorming stuff together. We have all kinds of good ideas.
We are the best fantasy bookers ever.
We are. And I was going to mention, so if you are following us on Twitter at Powerbombshells or on Instagram at Powerbombshells, you will see that we announced a really big giveaway on Friday. Black Friday. So if you somehow missed this announcement, you are still able to be involved. So Asé is happening on Friday, December the 1st. If you watched 2 episodes ago, we had Darius Lockhart and Sugar Dunkerton on to talk about Asé because it is happening here in Charlotte. I will be attending that show. My sister will be there. Our friends
will be watching it. I bought my $10.
So if you cannot come to the show in Charlotte, you are able to live stream it from anywhere in the world. This because both Darius and Shug have a following in the UK because they've both wrestled there. I was watching their Instagram live 2 weeks ago before they came on the show. They had a fan in Brazil wanting to watch, so they are truly worldwide. And this weekend they are doing a deal where if you buy a ticket now, up until tonight, I think it's like 11:59 because the deal does not extend through Cyber Monday. It's this weekend only. You can get the show for $10. If you miss the sale this weekend, because bills and things, believe me, I know, or unexpected car issues. Also, one of my favorite things that pops up. The tickets will only be $15, and you can watch the show live. And so we are partnering with Asé, and we are giving you the opportunity to watch it for free. All you have to do is subscribe to the Fight Game Media YouTube channel and the Asé YouTube channel. screenshot that you followed both of them, send it to us on Twitter or on Instagram, showing us that you did, and you're automatically entered to win. And that's it. That's all I got to do. It helps us out, helps them out. With the YouTube, you have to have a certain number of followers to make any
Fight
money.
the algorithm with
Yeah.
us.
Asé's goal is 1,200 followers, because that's when they can start getting some money from their content. And they are putting up a lot of really good content. Darius is pretty much running all of it by himself. Like, he has some help with as far as graphics and things like that, but it's pretty much a one-person show over there. So that is a free way to help them, is to subscribe to their YouTube channel. It's a free way to help us, is to subscribe to our YouTube channel. And so you have until 11:59 p.m. Pacific time on Thursday to enter this contest, and then we will pick a winner on Friday. So before the show, that way you know if you got a free ticket or not. And you will, if your name is picked, then I will send you the link. It takes you to it's up on like a private YouTube. It's a private YouTube link to their channel that you can watch this show. There's going to be a lot of really cool stuff. I'm so excited for the show, and I got excited all over again typing out the matches, because like I had the graphics ready, but I was typing them out in our notes, and I got excited all over again. Like, so
sorry, it decided to just do
no,
that.
that's okay. So the show's Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern time. Well, actually, I think I need to double check the times, because the doors are at 6:30. Because I work from home, and I gotta get in traffic, and so I'm hoping I'm gonna get there and parked before Loop performs. I don't know if that's hoping I can slip out on Friday before my work day is over and head downtown.
You can do it.
So hopefully the universe helps me out here. So the wrestling goddesses make my boss busy, and he doesn't really let me slip out and get to the show and get parked. Maybe I can tell him I'm going to watch Grammy Award winner Lute perform, and maybe he'll be okay with me piecing out a little bit early. Because this show the Asé show is going to have a live performance before wrestling starts. Lute is from here in Charlotte. He is on the Dreamville label, which is J. Cole. J. Cole is from here in North Carolina as well. He's on his label. He is a Grammy Award winner. He'll be performing a set before wrestling starts. I believe that on the live stream, you will get to see the Lute performance as well. I believe that is also included. Then the matches itself. The show is going to end at 10 o'clock. Like, if you watch the video that Asé put out, they're like, 10 o'clock, show's over. And he said, you know the story. You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. So 10 o'clock, Grady Cole Center's kicking us out.
They picked a really, really nice venue, folks. So
I cannot
every
wait.
minute counts.
Grady Cole is hugely important to just Charlotte in general, but to Charlotte wrestling, especially when it comes to NWA. We talked about when Darius was here a couple of weeks ago. There is there's the video of Ric Flair flying in on a helicopter, landing on the field. The field is directly behind Grady Cole Center. Like, so he landed on that field and walked in and had his NWA match. And so that's where I got to see Liger wrestle when PWX brought him in. I saw Liger there. I saw Roppongi 3K there before they broke up. New Japan Strong came through. They've done a show there. So Grady Cole is very important to wrestling. And so it is huge that Darius got his very first show booked there. And so we'll go ahead and start going through some of the matches just so you can see. I think there's just 6 matches, but they're incredible. And you get to see them for $10 or for free if you enter this contest.
Yeah, let's see. Let's go with this view.
So make sure that if you do follow them, please make sure that you screenshot it, because that's how you enter. That's how we know.
You need to screenshot that you followed us and follow them on.
Yes, and please
YouTube.
send it to.
If you need those links and you don't have them, you don't see them on our thing. We've been retweeting them. Just like reach out to us and let us know.
Yeah, we'll make sure we post the links. We'll post the links every day until Wednesday, and like I said, until Thursday. You have until 11:59 p.m. Pacific time on Thursday to enter. We'll pick a winner on Friday. That way you got plenty of time to make sure to get your link, and that way before I'm out the door on the way to see it live, you've got your link and you're ready to go. But yeah, so one of these incredible matches that you are going to see is Jonathan Gresham versus Darius Carter. Like, I cannot believe this is a match that is on this card. Jonathan Gresham, one of my favorites.
I love him. I'm very excited.
Yeah, and then Darius Carter is somebody who is known, and he's really well known in the northern indies, and so he's somewhat like, I'm familiar with his work just because I hear so many people talking about him, but he's not someone that I've seen a whole lot. So I'm really excited, and a lot of people point to him when we talk about heels that are not lazy and don't rely on the lazy tropes of fat shaming, body shaming, just the very lazy, low hanging fruit stuff. Darius Carter is somebody that people always point to as a heel who is very good at their job without leaning into those tropes. So I'm really interested to see how this match turns out, and I can't wait for it. It's going to be a really good one. And then next we have Kiera Hogan versus Charity King. I'm really looking forward to this one because Charity King is one of the few people on this card that I'm not familiar with. And so I'm really excited to see her. I watched the promo that they showed. Asé has it. If you go subscribe to their YouTube channel, you will find that promo. It's on all of their social media. If you find follow Asé Wrestling on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, you will see her promo. I think you're muted.
Muted? I'm saying that I've got these are the links I have available, and that's the link.
Yeah,
right
they're I believe they're at Asé Wrestling everywhere. So if you go to TikTok, that's
why I keep
Instagram,
doing that.
They're at Asé Wrestling. And then of course AséWrestling.com is where you can buy your ticket. But yes, I'm really looking forward to this one. Kiera is great. Nikki said I like the song that they use in Kiera's hype video. Me too. Their hype videos that they have done have been really fun. They've been really good. They've been doing promos with everybody. They've just done a really good job of building the social media presence for this show. So this one will be this is one of the matches I'm really looking forward to. It's Team Georgia versus Team North Carolina. I have seen pretty much all of them wrestle on a regular basis in Charlotte, and so I'm very familiar. I think Team North Carolina has this. However, Team Georgia is a very formidable team because so if you can see, I don't know how well it shows up in the post.
Yeah, it's a little tough. I don't know if this one.
Yeah, so Team North Carolina is fast as hell, Ian Maxwell, Yaya, Movie Mike, and Rayhan. And I think it's I'm not sure how to pronounce Antaeus. When I saw Rayhan, he was not wrestling under that name. He was wrestling under a different name and has wrestled. He's been wrestling under this name, and I haven't seen him. So I believe it's Antaeus is how you pronounce the last name, and I apologize if I said that incorrectly. Regardless, Rayhan is a beast. All of these guys are really good. As Darius pointed out a few weeks ago, these four train together and are really cohesive and know how to work together, which could be a really big advantage going into this match where Team Georgia is individuals. And
I love this idea. This is so great. It's such a funny match. What a cool match.
Yeah. So
I didn't realize until I was realigning these silly slides that I was like, oh, this is gonna be it's gonna be fun. This is a fun idea.
Yes. Yeah, I love it. And so Team Georgia is Sugar Dunkerton, Trevor Aon, which I believe I don't believe I've heard his name. I don't believe I have seen Trevor wrestle before. So I'm looking forward to that. And I know Brad is a really big fan of Trevor. And then Ashton Starr is on the card. Ashton is phenomenal. Really love Ashton. And Owen Knight I've seen a few times as well. So I'm really looking forward to this match because, like I said, I'm familiar with almost everyone in it. So Darius brought up a really good point. These Team Georgia, will definitely be a can they coexist and can they get past their ego situation where Team North Carolina has trained together for years and they know each other very well, and how will that come in to this match? Nikki said But first, Nikki said that she's very excited for this match. And she said he really is fast as hell. Yes, it is. It is a very appropriate name for him. As fast as hell, Ian Maxwell. Brad says Trevor is awesome. He's a total old school gothic character.
Cool.
Ooh, this sounds fun. Yeah. So I'm really looking forward to that as well. So this is that's probably one of the matches I'm most looking forward to. And then there's another really good match here, especially if you are an ROH fan, then you are familiar with the infantry. That is the captain, Sean Dean, who I will point out is the only person to have beaten MJF twice. And we joke, and people joke that MJF will not defend the ROH tag titles against the infantry because he's afraid of Sean Dean and knows Sean Dean has his number and therefore will not put his titles up against him.
Awesome.
And then Carly Bravo is also in the infantry, and then on ROH, Trish Adora is also in the infantry. They don't do mixed tags down there, but she is also a part of the infantry. All three members are former. They're all veterans. They were all served time in the military. And so, yeah, the infantry is a really great tag team. If you watch ROH, you know how good they are. And then they are wrestling the main event. There are two main events. There are two different tag teams that are called the main event. Two very different types of. I'm not as familiar with this main event. I've seen them a couple of times. I'm more familiar with the other one. There's one that dresses as a ringmaster, and the other one dresses as a lion. I've seen them in Charlotte.
Yeah,
I've seen them at Pure. Seen them a couple times. I believe they've also been in GCW. I've seen the main event, like once or twice, but I really like them. So I'm really looking forward to this one. And then, oh man, this is not just gonna be good. So this one is Jossie versus Kevin Knight. If you are a fan of, or if you're familiar with New Japan Strong, or New Japan, because he's been wrestling in the tag team. He's been wrestling in tag team with Kushida. Then you are familiar with Kevin Knight. Kevin Knight, I think, is definitely one of the big up and coming names in wrestling. I think he's gonna be a really big deal. I'm a huge Kevin Knight fan. Jossie is very good. I've seen him a handful of times. Jossie is a name that constantly comes up on the indie scene. I think Jossie is also a very big up and comer. I think this match will be, I think, a big spotlight on both of these guys, especially if you're not super familiar with them. I'm excited to see how their styles work together. I really am looking forward to this one. And this is another really good one where they've got the hype videos for them. And I recommend checking that out. And then he did a really cool poster for them. I can't remember. They posted it the other day, but they've done like variations. So we've got the typical match graphics like this, but then they've been having somebody do posters as well. And the posters look really cool. And the Jossie Kevin Knight poster was probably my favorite that they've done. It's a really, really cool look. So I'm looking forward to that one for sure.
This whole show is going to be really good.
Yes. Then this is our freaking main event.
It's so nuts. I cannot. I put this together 3 times now, and I still can't believe I'm going to get to see this match.
This is the match that you can see for just $10. $10. Or if it's after tomorrow, you can see for $15. This match alone is worth.
It's not 12. Are you sure?
It's 15.
Okay,
yeah.
That's
worth the price of admission alone. If you're in Charlotte,
you're not getting.
If you have a way to get to Charlotte, come watch this match live with me and Nikki.
I'm so excited for this match. This is gonna be so cool.
Yes, because if you've watched this show, you know Mel and I are huge Trish Adora fans.
Wow.
Nikki's a huge
Sam
Trish
got
Adora
me
fan.
into Trish Adora 2 years ago, folks, and two
something like
Manias ago. Yeah, it's been 2 now. So
yeah, Trish is incredible. I love watching her. She's killing it in Ring of Honor. She's somebody that I saw somebody the other day was talking about how they don't know how Trish Adora is not a bigger star in AEW. And there was a comment
Tony doesn't know how to book women.
Yeah, there was a comment earlier. It got lost in the comments, and I was going to circle back to it that they do have to do more than just get these women on TV. They've got to do a lot more, but it starts with getting these women on TV. But it does cost. It's worth so much more. I mean, it takes way more than that, and that's a conversation we've had many times. It needs to be character development and storylines, all of these things, presentation. equity and time, all of these things. But Trish Adora is somebody that they should make time for.
Seriously, she's so great.
And so Shug, if you didn't see the interview we did with Shug and Darius 2 weeks ago, Shug beat Trish Adora to become the Pan-American World Diaspora Champion. I believe I got that order correct.
Pan-African or Pan-American?
Oh, yes, Pan-African. I'm sorry. Yes, Pan-African.
Diaspora.
Yes, world champion. Always flip those words around.
No, I know.
But
I
yes.
know what you mean.
Trish was champion for 1,338 days. Make sure I got that right. And then Shug just beat her like just a few weeks ago. And so this is one of her biggest. This is going to be a huge match for her. And then Aja freaking Kong, like.
This is so cool.
And so I asked, if you missed the interview, I asked Darius, I'm like, how did you pull Aja Kong of all people for your very first show?
And we do have that available, guys, on our Twitter and Instagram and X's and whatever, all social medias. We do have that. It is clipped out, like, so there is, if you subscribe to our YouTube channel, it's right on there, because we wanted to make sure everybody got to see that, so that they
it was a really good. They were very generous with their time. They spent nearly an hour with us. They did not have to do that.
Yeah, exactly.
They are wonderful people, and I have gotten to know them over the last few years, and I'm so happy that they spent even a little bit amount of time with us, and they were very generous with their time. But yeah, so I can't wait to see. So perhaps we see Shug versus Trish getting a rematch on a future Asé show.
Well, and that's the thing, is I want to support the inaugural show, because I would like this to exist longer, because as they talked about it, and I love this concept. It's freaking amazing.
Me too. And then one of the big things that's going to happen on this show is Darius Lockhart is going to address his future. So Darius has not wrestled in like 2.5 years. He was having some injury problems. Then he had his father passed away. He was dealing with a lot of personal things as well as in the ring things. And so Darius is really and it was right at the time when all of this happened, was right when Darius was starting to make some noise on the indie scene. He had been in NWA. He had cut the fantastic This Land's Gonna Change Hand promo that got him the spot in NWA, got the attention of a lot of people in NWA, got a lot of attention for people not, wrestlers in other companies were paying attention to Darius. He wrestled a couple times in AEW. He wrestled Ricky Starks on Dark in a 9-minute match. He wrestled Matt Hardy on TV, and then some things happened, and the swole stuff happened, and then some and he is very clear that he did not get blackballed. Some people assume that he got blackballed because he was one of the few people who openly spoke up for Big Swole and the way that she was treated. So it's just the timing of everything just was very interesting, because he seemed to be right on the verge of people knowing what Nikki and I have known for years. It seemed like Darius was right there, and then all these things happened. And, he said that this concept has been around, something that he's wanted to do since 2019. So now he's focused on putting a show like this together and being this voice that he doesn't see represented. Does that mean in the ring too, or is he going to be behind the scenes now? We don't know. Darius is going to address that at the next show. I'm hoping, selfishly, that he's gonna be in the ring. Darius has been one of my favorite wrestlers for probably 6 or 7 years now. I've gotten to watch him since the very first day, the very first match he had in PWX. He wrestled Cedric Alexander and on a Pure show, or in a Pure match, and he held the PWX TV title 3 times. I believe he was the first 3-time champion. He never won the world championship. Or the big championship match. That's the one thing that still, if you want to set off anybody in our group, just mention the fact that Darius never won that title, and you will have people raging for 3 hours.
And your notifications will then need to be turned off.
That is still a very sore subject amongst our group.
I get it. I totally understand.
Yeah. So I'm really excited. I hope, and if Darius decides that he is done with wrestling. Wrestling is not an easy business. If he decides, and we know it's a carny business, we know it's political, we know there's a lot of things
work
about this business.
You have to love it and want to do it.
Yeah, so if Darius makes the decision to not wrestle anymore, then I will completely understand and support him in whatever way I can. If that means coming to these shows and doing this as a way to support him, then that's how I will support him. If we are lucky enough to see him wrestle on, if there's an Asé 2 and he gets to wrestle on it, or maybe an Asé 3, then there's that. And even if these and I just was thinking, we didn't even have I think we have the other graphics. I don't remember if they're up here. They're not matches, but there's also Faye Jackson is going to be on this show. Big Swole is the master of ceremonies on this show.
I don't think I had those pictures. That's cool.
Billy Dixon is also going to be involved in this show. Billy Dixon has done a lot for there's some smaller, not smaller, but I don't even want to say similar type shows like this, but they're kind of in that same vein.
Mm-hmm.
And he was running some shows in the DC area like that. Billy Dixon's also a really great wrestler. He was on, if you watched, he's been on some GCW stuff this year, but he was on Big Gay Brunch this year. He had a really good match with Sawyer Wreck. They had a really good match, and so he had kind of stepped away from wrestling a little bit, I believe. And so I can't remember if did he officially retire? I cannot remember if he officially retired, but he's going to be involved. He's at this time does not have a match, but then D'Lo Brown could be on commentary for this show.
Cool. Oh, that's cool. Oh, that's right. I forgot about that. We did talk about that.
Insane. Like,
that's gonna be fun. He's hilarious.
Crazy. Yeah,
he's always funny on commentary.
Yeah, D'Lo was great. And D'Lo apparently really wanted to be involved, and he liked the idea of what Darius was doing. And Darius is cultivating something special, I think. And I think part of it, a lot of is the type of person that Darius is. I mean, Darius and I are not some people that are super close, but he is somebody that I have known for a long time. He is somebody that I went out of my way every time I saw him to talk to, just because he's just a phenomenal person. And so, and I'm so happy for him. And like, his mother is wonderful. She would come to shows even when he was not wrestling, and she would come watch other people wrestle because she knew them, or they would call and they'd be like, Mama Lockhart, you coming to watch my match? Aww. And she would be like, okay. And she would come find, like, she has found me and Nikki, and like, or we've obviously sought her out too, but she has gone out of her way to find me and Nikki. She has let us, sometimes we've gotten to shows late, and she's like, come sit with me. And so she's the best, and I'm so looking forward to seeing her. And they're such good people, and I really hope Asé is successful beyond anything that they expect. I hope there's more Asé shows, regardless of Darius wrestling on them. I just really hope that this goes well. And that's why we want to give you the opportunity to see the show for free. Like, we want to support, I was trying to figure out a way to help support them. And the idea came to me, and I went to Mel and was like, yes, let's do it. Told Garrett about it. He was like, that's an awesome idea. Let's do it. This is something supports us, helping us get subscribers, but it helps Asé. It helps them get the YouTube subscribers. It gets the word out about great wrestling. And that's why Powerbombshells is here. We're brought to talk about the wrestling we like and we watch. And so that is supporting people like Darius and Shug and Jonathan Gresham and Kiera Hogan and people, and Trish Adora and Asha freaking God. Like, yeah. And so, like, that's why we want to give you the chance. So again, we will keep talking about this. You have until Wednesday at 11:59 p.m. Pacific time. Do two simple things that will hugely help us and Asé. It's a free way to support, and we will hopefully, if you are the winner, it's a free way for you to watch. If you are not the winner, I hope that you will still support them. And I know in this economy, $10 is a meal, or it is gas in your tank, and it goes to a lot of things, or $15 is after tomorrow. I completely understand it. I get it. If you are able to spare the $10 or $15 to buy this show, I hope that you do, because it will make a huge difference for Asé. And they're trying to get this in front of as many people as you can, and tweet about it. Like, it's using, I know Twitter is stupid. It's a pain in the ass.
Social media is silly, but it kind of it's something that helps us, and it is for content creators and for independent wrestlers like that trying to get their stuff going. That is like this is where we are. This is our bread and butter. So.
Yes, and it's free, and those are free. And I know on economy and stuff, we're going into holiday season, so free ways to help both us and Asé like that. It's following us, it's commenting, and it's commenting on the chat, which we truly appreciate. It's going back to old Asé videos and checking out their hype videos and liking it and bumping it up in the algorithm. And they're still doing, on top of us doing a giveaway, Asé is still giving away a PS5. Like
I forgot about the PS5.
They are doing, once they get to 1,200 subscribers, they are giving away a PS5. If you tag, you can do it on YouTube, Instagram, or Twitter. If you go to any of the posts that are about the PS5 giveaway, tag 3 people and use that hashtag. I believe we just lost Mel. But if you do that, then you could win a PS5. So liking Asé with our giveaway and with the PS5 giveaway helps them hugely. And so I really hope that you do that. And Mel is back. And she's muted.
I got kicked out. It kicked me out.
Oh no.
It was like,
listen, we're wrapping it up. Calm down.
It was so excited about wrestling that it couldn't handle it. And it was
apparently not.
I was like, get Mel out of here and go buy that show.
Yeah, Eddie said, I really enjoy y'all's content. Thank you, Eddie. We appreciate that, truly. And I'm glad that we've got to see you in the chat the last couple of weeks. So that we always love seeing new people and we love chatting with you guys. But yeah, so go subscribe, but please make sure it's not enough. Like the key thing clearly is to like it, but we won't know that you have entered unless you screenshot it and send it to us. So just screenshot it, tag, and go to Powerbombshells on Twitter, or if you're not on Twitter, go to Instagram, send us a D. I think our DMs should be fine, that you can just send us a DM, or tag us if you want to. You can go post it in your stories and tag at Powerbombshells so that we see it. However we see it, just so that we know that you entered, and we'll automatically enter you to win. It's a very easy thing, and we want, like we said, we want people to see Asé. Yes, so we want you to see good wrestling. We want to support our people that we're friends with, and so please go do that. And you have until Wednesday at 11:59 p.m. Pacific time. And definitely, if you're following us on social media, you're going to see us reminding you. We're going to be posting it. And if you've already liked us and Asé, screenshot it and you can enter.
Yeah,
that's fine. If you have already bought the show, tell your friends that they can enter to win a free thing, and tell them to go like our YouTube and their YouTube, and send us screenshots and we'll enter them in. So
great.
Yes,
I'm very excited about this.
Yes,
I will be watching. Sam will be there, so she will be able to report back to us.
Yes.
And
we'll do next week. We'll next Sunday's show, we'll do a little bit of a recap and talk about what it's like in studio. We want to get the in audience being there in the venue, and what it's like, how it comes across.
This will be perfect. We'll be able to experience it from both sides and give them feedback. That's good.
And that'll be good. That'll be good feedback too for Darius, so he can be like, okay, this is how it came off here. Were there any lagging issues, volume issue, so that's all important information that we need to know, or that they need to know. So we'll recap that. I believe we got a special guest coming on next week.
You have a special guest. I mean, it's wrestling, but I'm pretty sure we're gonna have a really, really special guest. We're gonna have some.
Card is subject to change, but it looks like
card's always subject to change.
It's subject to change, but it looks like we have a special guest.
And it's going to be a guest that is going to be able to cover a broad range of fun topics that are relevant for 2024. Cool because, she the person has some inside information about
they do
places and things.
Yes, and they have a lot of good insights that they can share with us. I think Daza says, great show as always. Thank you.
And they can help me figure out how to continue to make this case for Motor City.
Yes, so we have a lot of good stuff coming next week. Thank you. This show was a bit longer than we typically go, but wrestling things happened, and thank you for bearing with me with my voice. And
Sam's a trooper, folks.
I'm glad I didn't have any coughing fits. I was a little concerned about that.
You're doing awesome.
Daza said, "Ooh, is it me, Daza? It might be. We'll let you know."
We'll
let you know if you're the special guest. Nikki says she can't wait for next week, and we have found out that if we forget about the show and we can't run it, that Daza, Brad, and Nikki will run the show for us.
We'll run the show from the comments. It's all good. Yes. You guys can. I actually, part of me would just like sit and watch the comments for a little while just for that. Not gonna lie, you guys.
That's another thing. If my voice gives out, we could have just turned it over to the comments and let them help. They would have helped Mel co-host, and I just would have watched in the.
I could have popped them up like underneath you, so they were your little subtitles. That would have been fun. All right. See, so if anything ever happens, guys, we know we have you.
Yes, definitely.
And we appreciate the fact that you guys come and hang out every week and comment. It really matters. Like it does. It does defeat the algorithm just a little bit.
Yes, and even regardless of the algorithm, we do love talking to you guys.
Yeah, for sure.
You guys are so much fun, and you always.
And thanks for hanging out in the Discord with me. I really appreciate the people that hang in the Discord with me as well. Thanks.
Yes. And make sure that you subscribe to the Patreon, because there is a lot of really good content out there. And you do get a free invite to the Discord as soon as you sign up for the Patreon. There's a $5 tier and a $10 tier. On the $10 tier, you do get the audio of this show. You also get the audio of Speaking of Strong Style, the audio for the Dynamite show. So if you are subscribed to just the YouTube, which that still helps us.
Thank you.
We are live every Sunday at 1:00. We have the Dynamite show is live after Dynamite every Wednesday. Speaking of Strong Style is live every Thursday at 5:30 p.m. Eastern. Then you can get the audio of those of all three shows on the $10 tier of the Patreon. The $10 tier also has the happy hour, which is where you get to come hang out with the creators who are available, and you get to come shoot the breeze with us and bring a beverage of your choice if you would like to. You can bring snacks if you want to. Mm-hmm. We've had one last month that was a lot of fun.
There's nothing better than the sound of crunching in a microphone. Everyone knows that. It's the most,
you want some ASMR. Some
exactly.
ASMR.
You read my mind.
But yeah, so we appreciate your support, whether it's here on YouTube or on the Patreon. But and there's a ton of content, not just ours. There's there's MMA content, there's WWE content, there's Joshi content, because we have the amazing Scott Edwards as part of the Fight Game Media family. And if you want to know anything about Joshi, Scott is your guy, and if he doesn't know, he will find out for you.
Yeah, he will. He has
a ton of information. So if you like, there's all kinds of stuff here. We cover everything. We try to cover all kinds of things, and then now we have the broken. I think it's broken news is what Garrett's calling it.
Yeah, we've been doing shorts when things like last night happened, and there is Garrett grabbed a friend and was able to do a quick broken news on the CM Punk debut.
Yeah, and they did one
live and.
They did one about the stuff with what was the one him and Paul went live? Was it the stuff with Julia, or
it was the Continental Classic post show?
That's right. Yep, that's what it was.
They watched the thing at 1:00 Eastern, and then they talked about how they were presenting that, because we were all very interested. We liked the idea of a tournament, but we weren't sure what the deal was.
So there's some really cool content and we're kind of experimenting with shows. Last night, Garrett, because I watched after the wrap, I went and watched Garrett's show because I didn't know that Garrett had been live. I closed out of the wrap and I was like, "What's this with Garrett?" So I went and watched that. It was like 30 minutes, and he is going to be doing it sounds like they're going to be doing a show themselves that separately. It's going to be about, I think it's going to be about Creed, the Creed movies, not Creed the band.
Oh, I believe it. Yeah. He likes to do those for the Patreon.
Yeah, so they're doing that kind of stuff. So there's going to be all kinds of new content coming. So make sure that
he did all the Rocky movies, and now he's probably doing all the Creed movies.
Yeah, so definitely come check that out. There's a lot of cool stuff here. Make sure you subscribe. That helps. And if you can't subscribe to the Patreon, then subscribe here. But the Patreon's always a good thing. There's a lot of cool content, and we work hard to get you that content out every day. There is some kind of content coming out on this channel. So we appreciate all of your support. We went long today. Thank you. We are typically, if this is your first time watching, we are not typically a 3-hour show. Some things happened and we had to talk about it. So it made things longer. And then, but next week we do have a guest. I'm really excited for. Maybe it will go 3 hours because we've got a lot of stuff to talk about with them next
Our
week.
guests are so kind with their time.
They
we
are.
greatly appreciate it.
Definitely. And you guys are great with your time too. Whether
Yeah.
you're watching the whole thing live or watching some, then coming back and finishing it. However you do it, we appreciate it truly. And so
100%.
we will, I think that wraps it up unless we try to make it the extra minute and a half to make it go exactly 3 hours.
No, I think we're going to try and end it, but we'll see. It might end up anyway. But have a great week, everybody.
Thank you. See you next week. Bye.
Bye. What maybe?